Calgary, Alberta Made Stampede Breakfast, July 9th.
The following is a special live presentation of CBC Sports. In Phoenix, the rookie would challenge the master. However, the master would pull away to victory. Brazil saw the repeat of a familiar pattern. Yes, the world champion hadn't forgotten the way to the winner's podium. At Imola, there was a price to pay for impatience. And reward for the man who's covered more Grand Prix miles than anyone in history. They say traffic is bad in historic Monte Carlo. But not if you stay ahead of the pack. Today, drama and excitement meet here in Montreal. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to our Western viewers. Welcome to Ile Notre Dame in Montreal and this 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix. Let me tell you, it rained last night here in Montreal and rained earlier this morning. I'll bring you right up to date on track conditions before the start of the race. In about 27 minutes from now, these big machines will race down this start-finish area at nearly 200 miles an hour. We're happy to have our regular broadcast partners back in 1990, two of the best in the business. Three-time world champion Jackie Stewart will work with me in the booth. He won this event for Ken Tyrrell in 71 and 72. And working in the pits, one of Britain's foremost racing journalists, Barry Gill. This will be the 22nd running of this event since Black Jack Brabham, the Australian, first won at Mosport in our centennial year, 1967. Today, we turn back the pages of time on the Canadian Grand Prix. After stops at Mosport, Ontario and Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, Montreal became permanent home to the Canadian Grand Prix in 1978, and Quebec's Gilles Villeneuve, in just his second season and 19th Grand Prix, would win here at Ile Notre Dame. It was the first of 6 times in his brief but brilliant career that Villeneuve would race to collect the checkered flag for Ferrari. In 1983, René Arnoux from France, in his first season with Ferrari, delivered another victory for the Scarlet Racing crew. It was one of 3 wins that season for the driver who wound up his career last year with Ligier. 2 years later, the Ferraris were even more dominant. Michele Alboreto, in the midst of his best campaign thus far, would finish first, followed by Ferrari teammate Stefan Johansson. A 1-2 sweep for the Italian racing power. At the start of the 1982 race, Didier Pironi's Ferrari would stall on the grid. It was hit by rookie driver Riccardo Paletti of Osella. Look at this. Help arrived within seconds, but the car was then engulfed by flames. Riccardo Paletti would die of internal injuries. Brazil's Nelson Piquet earned a pair of world championships for Brabham in the early 80s and twice tasted victory here in Montreal, the second being in 1984 in the season following his second world championship. Piquet also won in 1982 when the race was restarted some 2 hours after the fatal Paletti accident. McLaren, for all its dominance in the 80s, hasn't fared too well here in Montreal, but in 1988, world champion Ayrton Senna guided his red and white machine to a thumbs-up performance in Montreal. The Williams cars have done the best here. Alan Jones, the Australian, winning back-to-back in 79 and 80, then clinching the world championship at Watkins Glen, New York, just 1 week after winning here in Montreal. Nigel Mansell gave the Frank Williams team its 3rd Canadian Grand Prix win here in Montreal in 1986. In a year which Mansell would win 5 times, but eventually lose the world championship to a blown tire in Australia. Fortune smiled on Thierry Boutsen last year when he moved into 2nd place, then saw Ayrton Senna drop out with only 3 laps to go, giving Boutsen his first Formula One win after 95 races. Boutsen, by the way, finished the season with a win. It also came in the rain. That was in Australia. We will hear from Thierry Boutsen as well as defending world champion Alain Prost. And we'll talk with the new kid on the block, Jean Alesi. Stay with us. Lots more to come as CBC's live coverage of the Molson Canadian Grand Prix will continue on Sports Weekend.
Grand Prix on Sports Weekend, brought to you by Molson Canadian. What beer's all about. By Honda, delivering Grand Prix performance to your driveway. And by Castrol Canada, makers of Castrol XLR.
In Canada, men use an ancient form of communication to meet women. It's called making eye contact. Molson Canadian, the clean, cold taste of a genuine Canadian beer. What beer's all about.
The only way we could improve BF Goodrich TA tires was to add a piece of plastic. Introducing the High Performance Card. With National Road Hazard Protection and more, it comes in handy down the road. Available at participating BF Goodrich tire dealers.
Honda presents Muscle at the beach. What's there to do for fun in a place like Tipowego Falls?
Competition. It's fun, and it's the best way to test yourself. No matter what your age, if you're interested in sport, you know that competition inspires you. It gives you the motivation to be your best. On August 3rd to 5th, the Alberta Sport Council has organized the 1919 Masters Games in Lethbridge for athletes from 18 to 80. Get together with your friends and teammates and plan to compete in the first ever Alberta Masters Games.
Canadian Western Natural Gas, a proud sponsor of the Games.
And on this Sunday afternoon, welcome back to Montreal. Many years ago, Ken Tyrrell gave a chance to a young driver. That young driver was Jackie Stewart. Well, there's a similar story in 1990 involving Tyrrell and a young driver, and we get more from Barry Gill.
Few sports change their faces as dramatically or as quickly as Formula One motor racing. The shapes and the colours of the cars, the names and nationalities of the drivers, the power of the engines, even the source of the engines, and of course the money and the venues. But for 22 years, there's been one cheerful constant in Grand Prix racing, the man they call simply Uncle Ken.
Well, Ken Tyrrell is one of the most well-respected men in Formula One. I've worked for him now for 14 years, and I've always found him to be a very fair, straightforward man.
Even though he's not a technical man, but he can look at motor racing in the purest way, which is probably the most logical way to look at it, and he can come up with some good answers.
Tyrrell is still a very small company, in the sense this run a bit by the family. Even if the son is working and everything, I don't mean family in the sense that all the families there. It's just this is small, and the team and the people in the factory, everybody participate in whatever happened. And that's the most important thing in Formula One today. The teams grow up very big and the people feel a bit impersonal. In Tyrrell, I think everybody feels part of the team.
But every team needs an ace, and no one has picked more stars than Ken Tyrrell. I asked Harvey Postlethwaite how Ken found young stars like John Alesi.
Well, I think he would very modestly say that he just happened to be the best driver in Formula 3000 at the time, but clearly there's a lot more to it than that, Murray. Jean was was looking very good in Formula 3000. He'd had a slightly checkered career up till that point, but I think he was showing those little signs that Ken picked up of being very, very good. Little things that he was doing that were showing up, that were clearly marking him out as a future, let's not say at this point future champion, but certainly as championship material.
Second already in 2 races this season, Alesi has character as well as pace. I asked him, could he explain his obvious natural talent?
I don't know, it's very difficult to speak about that, but I try to be professional. I try to understand, to speak with my engineer and to drive on the limit all the time. So maybe it's because I can do, and I have no secret.
I see nothing really stopping him from going straight to the top. I'd be happier if he wasn't going quite as well as he is going now, actually. I think his drive at Monte Carlo was quite exceptional, something that really I don't think I've seen anything like it for someone with so little experience. But I'd like to see him do the rest of this season just gaining experience, learning the circuits, picking up points where he can, getting himself ready for the Honda engine next year.
Nobody who sees you on the pit wall, Ken, will say you take it easy.
Well, I suppose like anyone else, I get nervous and it shows on the way I behave.
But you don't really want to stop, do you?
No, I like it. I don't want to stop. I like it. I want to be there. Maybe I'd want to do less and less of the nitty-gritty, but I want to be there.
Jean Alesi, by the way, celebrates his 26th birthday tomorrow, and it looks like he'll be celebrating in Formula One for many, many years to come. For the first time today, let's introduce you to the Wee Scot, 3-time world champion Jackie Stewart. He is with the defending champion Alain Prost, who was with a new team in 1990.
For Italy, it was a remarkable thing for Alain Prost to join Ferrari. The Italians were jubilant about it. But there's a lot more, surely, to be doing at Ferrari than eating pasta. What is the difference for you between driving for McLaren and Honda to go to Ferrari?
I think it looks like I'm 10 or 15 years younger. Because, you know, when you start racing, you do that because you have a passion, and you don't think about the glory and the money and anything else, you know. And to be honest, I mean, when you start racing and when you start to be successful, you think about these kind of things. You think about winning races, winning a championship, getting a lot of money if it's possible, and discussing your contract and all kinds of things. And then when I joined Ferrari, I didn't think about all this politics. I only thought about driving a racing car, the most prestigious racing car, most prestigious Formula One team in the world. And I was like a young boy and starting racing again, you know. That is the difference.
A young boy getting paid a man's figure, because it's reputed that in fact you must be the highest paid racing driver of all time now by driving for Ferrari, because your contract is supposed to be the best ever.
I really don't know, but I hope so. I mean, I honestly think that I work much better than every driver in Formula One, because I work harder, and I'm committed with my team 100%. And I'm honest with them, and I do everything I can. I think it's a very difficult team to work for. I always said that it would be good for me for my career to go to Ferrari at the end of my career, and that's what I did. And I think it was a right choice. For the motivation side, was quite good, but I think that if a young driver goes to Ferrari with much less experience, it will be too difficult for him to work in this team. We have a lot of pressure, and I don't care too much about the pressure. It's a bit tiring physically, but mentally I have no problem. You know, I have no problem with the Italian press. I speak Italian also, it helped me a little bit. But I must say, with both drivers in the team, competitive drivers, it's very, very difficult to go through the season without any problem.
Couple of three-time world champions, the two winningest drivers in history. Statistics play an interesting part in Formula One racing. Barry Gill has a truck full of track facts.
This Canadian Grand Prix is the 489th World Championship battle. Another statistical stopover on a trail leading back to a wartime aerodrome on May the 13th, 1950, when the championship began. That was a fairly primitive affair. In fact, the King and Queen watched it from a stepladder in a farmyard. In contrast, this event is part of a global spectacular watched by 4 billion viewers in 76 countries. The commentators have to fill 1,200 hours of airtime, and they feed on facts. No sport enjoys statistics and records more than Formula One motor racing. For example, there are drivers from 11 countries competing for this event, including no fewer than 14 Italians and 6 Frenchmen, all looking for a place in the spotlight. They are powered by 7 different types of engines, including the big boys: Ford, Renault, Honda, and even Chrysler. The grid contains no fewer than 3 all-time record breakers. Alain Prost has won the most races, 40. He scored the most points, 604, and he set 32 fastest laps. And Ayrton Senna came here with 45 pole positions to his credit. And Riccardo Patrese will be starting in his 197th Grand Prix. And as for the makes, well, Ferrari have won 98 races, McLaren 82, Lotus 79 and Williams 42. I wonder which driver and which car will be going to add to its record when the flag falls this afternoon.
There are 5 former Canadian Grand Prix champions in today's race, representing 4 different teams. They are the 5 winners since 1984. Jackie and Barry caught up with 2 of the winners that both won this event for Frank Williams.
Terry, last year's Canadian Grand Prix for you must surely have been one of your most satisfying.
Yeah, it was my first win in a Grand Prix, and that was very satisfying because I've been, for the first year, sitting in a good car, in a good team. Fantastic engine in these conditions, and driving here in Montreal, winning in the wet was something really special for me.
Looking back, with 2020 hindsight, were the conditions too bad for racing?
No, they were all right. I think for this circuit, the visibility was still good. There were a few pedals here and there, but after a few laps, we learn where they are. So I think the conditions were okay for a race here in these conditions.
So far this year, the weather's been kind to us. The Williams has always been engineered well. The Renault engine is now becoming extremely competitive. Are you in a position to seriously challenge now the Prosts and the Sennas and the Mansos and the Bergers?
Well, it really depends on the circuit, if we can get the car sorted out. As we were in Imola a few weeks ago, and the car was fantastic there. I was leading the race without any problem, and it then had a small mechanical problem. But if we can get the car as good as what it was in Imola, I'm sure we can play a big role for the victory again here. But it's gonna be tough.
And now from one Canadian Grand Prix champion to another who's won this Grand Prix.
Nigel, the winner here in 1986, the question is, can you do it again in Ferrari?
Oh yeah, I'm waiting very patiently this year to finish, but I reckon we're getting it together now, and the team's doing a good job, and I think this should be a very interesting race.
You wrote in one of the English magazines recently that you really like this circuit.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a fantastic circuit, but I must confess that I've had difficulties with it today. I mean, it's a little bit dirty today, and I think there's a few more bumps appeared from last year.
Nigel, your drive at Monte Carlo was vintage Mansell. I mean, it was all there, wasn't it? Flat out all the time. Is that what we can expect on Sunday?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, if you're a professional in any sport, you give it your best shot, and, you know, certainly here, if the car's going well, we'll be sailing along, as I say.
How are you enjoying life with Ferrari?
Oh, it's very good. I mean, it has its ups and downs like any team, but yeah, I mean, they're great to work for, and they're very emotional, and you know, it's just that we're having a few problems this year finishing with reliability, but putting that aside, I mean, we are making progress.
You said last year that the one man you'd like to be a teammate to was Alain Prost. How are you enjoying that?
Yeah, that's before I knew he was coming. No, it's okay. I mean, Alain is very professional, and you know, things are quite good. The only thing I will say is that now we are racing. I mean, I'm just another competitor, so I'm not a teammate to him. So, I mean, we've got a good working relationship. It's a thoroughly professional one, but he's out to beat me, and consequently, you know, there's other things that go along with it.
And what do you think the main problems will be here?
Well, I think reliability. I mean, it's a very tough circuit, and as I said, Ferrari hasn't exactly been the best of cars for that. But putting that aside, a lot of driving involved, a lot of fast corners, a lot of bumps, and if you go offline at the moment, you're in trouble.
Both Boutsen and Mansell should be contenders today, along with a pole sitter, a former winner, Ayrton Senna. Stay with us. We'll hear from the brilliant Brazilian. That's up next as Sports Weekend continues from Montreal.
If you like a taste that's fresh and crisp, if you want a beer that's brewed the Rocky Mountain way, it's the right beer now. Reach for the Silver Bullet. It's got that clean, clear taste that goes the distance.
And we must look at this spark plug closely. For the good of North American cars, we must improve performance. And we must redesign it for quicker starts and better fuel economy, with the secret chosen by all Japanese and many European automakers. The NGK V-Groove design. NGK V-Power, the spark of genius.
Can your motor oil survive the punishment today's engines dish out? Circulating it twice as fast, working it twice as hard, breaking it down and causing it to lose its viscosity. That's why you need an oil with the additive that does more to help prevent viscosity breakdown. Castrol XLR, the oil engineered for today's cars.
the Range Rover, the Subaru Justy, the Subaru Justy is the lowest price four-wheel drive car you can buy. And it can go just about anywhere the Range Rover can. And some places it can't. The Subaru Justy. Think of it as a Range Rover that's more in your range. Subaru. If you think about it, you'll drive one.
As we welcome you back to Montreal on this Sunday afternoon, a very noisy Sunday afternoon, one of the safest bets in racing is that Ayrton Senna will be on the pole. He has done it for a record 46 times. Barry Gill had a chance to talk with a brilliant Brazilian, Ayrton Senna.
Ayrton Senna, first of all, many congratulations. The 46th pole position. Is it getting easier or harder?
I don't think to have 46 pole positions is easy at all. And it's not because you have 10 or 40 or 50 is getting easier. We all know that this year the competition is a lot stronger than the two previous seasons, and therefore it's requiring more work and more concentration and more precision in order to maintain the performance and to obtain the pole positions.
It is looking at as if the weather may be wet again this year. That pole position will be very important then, won't it?
I think for visibility reasons, of course, if you are ahead, you have a clear circuit, you have a much better visibility, and it's not only safer, but easier to go faster. So we are in a good place, in a good position. We have now to make sure we get the right compromise for tomorrow conditions. If the race is damp and dry and wet, there will not be an optimum setup, really a compromise, in order to maintain a good average performance throughout the different conditions.
And now your teammates up there with you. The competition inside the team's getting strong again, isn't it? Gerhard did very well yesterday.
No, I think Gerhard has done well the whole season. I think the fact that one race or two races, I'm not sure he was not alongside me, doesn't mean anything. We are both working hard, very competitive. He's fast, and it's tough. It's tough. We have to do always my very best. I have to do always my very best to maintain the best lap time or a leading position in the race or a victory. So it's not going to be any different tomorrow.
There's your pole sitter as we look down live at Montreal. Some track stats. It is just over 2.5 miles around. The race over 70 laps. There is a time limit of 2 hours. Let's have a look at the weather stats. I said about 30 minutes ago, it was raining earlier today here in Montreal. You know, it's very, very interesting. About a half an hour ago here, the sun came out at the track, but I looked across to downtown Montreal. It was absolutely pouring rain. It's just over 60 degrees. Air temperature just over 70 degrees on the track. And the forecast for Montreal and southern Quebec this afternoon is heavy rain later in the day. We're still waiting to find out whether or not this will be declared a wet race. That means more than half the cars will be on rain tires. If that's the case, they can come in at will and change to dry tires should the weather forecast change. Right now, let's go down live to the grid. And once again, here's Barry Gill. Barry?
Well, the news, Brian, is that under these blankets, Ayrton Senna has got wet weather tyres on. Ayrton Senna, at the moment, the calmest man on the track, is 30th pole position in 37 races. And believe it or not, after 2 victories this season, Ayrton is looking for his 23rd victory in 99 races. One of his main competitors will be Gerhard Berger. This is his first season with McLaren, and this, believe it or not, is the 4th time he's been on the front row. The 28-year-old Austrian is second in the championship and looking for his first win for the new team. Now, of course, the man they'll be watching in their mirrors is the world champion, Alain Prost. What can we say about the Frenchman? Cheerful as ever. The reigning world champion claimed his 40th victory when he won second time out for his new team, Ferrari, in Brazil. But he's still got to win this Canadian Grand Prix for the first time. This is Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton Ford. And this is his best Grand Prix position of the season. Alessandro has only scored points once this season. He, of course, won his first Grand Prix in Japan last year. Now, here is a man whose career seems to have been rejuvenated with Benetton Ford. The 3-time world champion, Nelson Piquet. He's also starting with his best grid position of the season. He, of course, has already won this race twice, and I have to tell you, he's my dark horse. And over here, Thierry Boutsen, the likeable Belgian who won his first Grand Prix here last season. He's 37 years old, and if it is wet, he'll be very hard to beat. You must remember his superb drive in Australia at the end of last season. And the man we were talking to earlier, one of the great chargers, Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. He won here in 1986. He's already scored 2 wins for Ferrari and would dearly love to win here again. And the new boy in the block, John Alesi. He's 26 tomorrow. He could give himself a birthday present today by scoring points for Tyrrell. Riccardo Patrese, the Italian who won to gladden the hearts of all Italians at Imola. Riccardo was happier with the car, actually, in the wet than he was in the dry. A great racer, second last year, a man we can expect big things from today. Now, the Brabham team have returned with new Japanese writing, a new Japanese owner, and Stefano Modena, who surprised everybody in practice with this 10th position on the grid. The Lotus team are still looking for a revival of famous fortunes in the Chapman days. Both the cars are very well placed. Derek Warwick, of course, known to us all, and this new man, Donnelly, surprised people in practice, including his own teammate. And the Lotus cars have a Lamborghini engine. Chrysler are fighting the big boys in the engine war. And now Japan's hero in the second Tyrrell, Nakajima, and that is the end of us on the grid. Brian, back to you.
All right, Barry, a very special time for all of us. Some great work by Barry and cameraman Mark Punga. Jackie, I see the sign. It is officially been declared a wet race. That means more than half the cars are on rain tires. If it's a wet race, you're on your own to change. It will not be stopped. You come in at your discretion.
This is a big driver's decision when weather conditions are like this. The team manager can't help a great deal. It really is down to the driver, and when he comes into the pits can win or lose the race. It's a very delicate decision that has to be made, and the most experienced drivers in the past have often made a bad decision on that as the cars go off in their pace lap.
This is the pace lap. It does not count in the 70-lap total. This is a 70-lap race with a time limit of 2 hours, and let's run down the starting grid for the 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix. The pole position, the fastest man in Formula One racing, Ayrton Senna, a record 46 career pole positions. Also sharing row number 1, McLaren teammate Gerhard Berger's had points in his last 3 races, started from the pole this year in Arizona. Alain Prost, the professor, heads the second row. The pole sitter 1 year ago, 40 career victories. Interestingly enough, has never won in Canada. Also in row 2, Sandy Nannini of Benetton. This is the 3rd race with that new big Ford engine, the team expecting much more after a slow start. Teammate Nelson Piquet, 3-time world champion, seems to have regained his desire. Piquet in the points 3 times this year. You saw him looking relaxed on the grid. There's Thierry Boutsen, starting from the 3rd row, defending champion, quite fond of this Circuit Villeneuve on Ile Notre Dame. On to row 4 for the always aggressive Mansell, having some trouble completing races for Ferrari, but is always a factor. The most promising driver around, Tyrrell Jean Alesi, 1989 Formula 3000 champion, tabbed as a possible future world champion. Then row 5 for Riccardo Patrese in the 2nd Williams, came close to winning in Montreal last year, a winner this year at Imola. Also, row number 5, Stefano Modena for Brabham. Modena was black flagged last year after a promising qualifying performance. And the rest of the grid as the cars are on their warm-up lap. Let's run through the remainder. 2 Lotuses in row 6, Nakajima in the 2nd Tyrrell, and the 1985 Canadian Grand Prix champion Michele Alboreto now with arrows. Rows 8 and 9 feature Alio, who's finished in the points 5 times in his career, plus Griard in the Lona Sella, Martini for Minardi, and Lola Suzuki. It's on to rows 10 and 11 for the first Dallara with Pirro, Nicole Larina in the 2nd Ligier, and a couple of Onyxes. The final 2 rows, Lola Lamborghini's Bernard from France, 6th at Monaco, Capelli for the struggling Leighton House March, Dallara veteran Andrea de Cesaris, and Alex Caffey, the final qualifier. There you have it. A big crowd on hand here today in spite of the weather, and again, this has been declared a wet track in Montreal. It rained last night, rained early this morning as the cars have now completed the lap, come back down into the start-finish area, and that is the onboard camera of car number 8, the Brabham of Stefano Modena. Jackie, some thoughts just a couple of seconds before we start?
Well, from a driver's point of view, these are tense moments, a little tenser, in fact, while they're waiting to go on that pace lap that we've just seen. And this is a wonderful shot high from our helicopter here as the grid forms up, and all cars have to come to a stop before we can officially get under starters' orders. But the drivers now have to be very cool, calm and collected, particularly with all of that horsepower and not a lot of grip, because of course the track is very slippery indeed. To transmit that kind of power takes a very delicate touch, and when racing drivers are very nervous, then the touch is usually not quite so sensitive.
On the right, that is Ayrton Senna, the pole sitter. Remember, Jackie, the start here is very important. Watch for the green lights. They have 3 quick turns. We're underway from Montreal. Now, very important, through the first turns come the 2 McLarens. They were on the front row. It looks like a clean start. Now the sharp right-hand turn up along the north side of Ile Notre Dame, facing downtown Montreal. They'll go to the east end of the island, make a right hairpin. There come the McLarens, the pole sitter Ayrton Senna, followed by his teammate Gerhard Berger. The way you pick out the McLarens is Senna has the yellow helmet. He is the leader, and that looks to be one of the Minardis.
Well, he spun out very early on, but it could be, as a matter of fact, that Berger may be penalised for jumping the start, because he certainly left before the green light. It was Martini who had spun out in that opening lap there. but I think we'll have to wait for the officials to advise us, but it could be that a penalty of 1 minute could be levied on top of Berger for anticipating the start. But the Benetton is well up there. Nannini's in very good shape.
They go down the north side of the island, then we'll make a sharp right-handed hairpin turn, then come thundering down. Here's that sharp right-hand hairpin at the east end of the island. Now it really gets exciting. You'll see some sensational camera shots as they'll be upward of 200 miles an hour.
And we've got Alessi in fourth position, which is a very healthy situation from him, but Senna's really taken a lead at the end of this first lap, followed by Berger. Then you have Nannini. Then Alessi comes up after that. It's a very fast part of the racetrack now. Brazilian flag being flown there. It won't be being looked at on this lap. There's the Ferrari, and here's our on-camera situation. You can see there's not a great deal of spray. The spray normally is much more severe than that. That's the car of Modena. That's the Brabham. And then we've got that spin out, of course, that took on earlier there. The car is still blocked on the track and supplying. The car hasn't been moved away. That was Martini's car, and it simply hasn't been moved by the marshals. I think there'll be some complaints about that. The car has been left during that entire first lap, it would appear, without being moved.
Right now, it's Ayrton Senna, followed by Gerhard Berger, Sandy Nannini, and Alain Prost. We are just underway with this 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix. There is your 1988 champion here in Canada. The defending champion is Thierry Boutsen. Don't forget, Senna coming off a brilliant drive a couple of weeks ago in Monaco. The rain has stopped, but the track is still wet. More rain is forecast here this afternoon. There's Nannini coming through. Alain Prost with car number 1, the defending world champion, the Williams, and then Nigel Mansell in the second Williams of Riccardo Patrese. A lot of people picking Mansell as a dark horse here this weekend. There is your defending champion. That is Thierry Boutsen from Belgium, driving for Frank Williams. Williams has won the Canadian Grand Prix a total of 4 times, going back to Alan Jones in 1979. Here comes your leader, the yellow-helmeted Brazilian, Ayrton Senna, followed by his teammate Gerhard Berger. Jackie, you had said yesterday, had all things been equal, you see Berger right behind Senna, followed by Sandy Nannini in the Benetton Ford and Jean Alesi for Tyrrell. You thought if it was dry yesterday, Berger might have been able to grab the pole.
Yes, I think he's absolutely in the mood to win, although I must say the beginning of this race would suggest that Ayrton Senna still has an advantage. So I would think that, and they've moved this car a little bit now, that car of Martini's, they've moved it, but they haven't cleared the car. That should be moved. I think that Berger's certainly in contention, but I think that Senna's got this race at the moment by the scruff of his neck. He is an amazingly fast driver under difficult conditions. He's very good in the rain. Remember, he drove very well here last year, but the first 4 have taken quite a big advantage on Piquet. Then comes Prost, then comes Boutsen, then you've got Mansell coming into your picture, then of course Patrese, very closely followed by Warwick, who looks like he's setting up Patrese.
Nelson Piquet has seemingly got it back together, Jackie. He is running in the number 5 position. As we look at our leader, he appeared very relaxed on the grid as Barry Gill walked down. Piquet wanting to get back in it in 1990. He not only gets money for winning, he gets apparently $100,000 per World Championship point from this Benetton Ford team.
The reason for that is that last year he was being paid around $6 million a year by his previous team, by Lotus, and they didn't want to give him that kind of money in block capital. No team would have given him that much for 1990, so instead of taking the lump sum, which he simply wouldn't have been offered anyway, he decided to go for success with World Championship points or victories or places on the podium. So technically, if he picks up an awful lot of World Championship points, he could make a great deal of money.
Car number 8 belongs to the Italian Stefano Modena with the onboard camera as he gets ready to come down through the start-finish area. There's a little chicane. Here it is, then bang onto the start-finish grid, and they come thundering down at just under 200 miles an hour. There he is, car number 8, followed by the arrows of Michele Alboreto, who of course won here several years ago for Ferrari. Live coverage of the 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix. The rain has stopped, but as you can see, visibility not really all that good, although it's nowhere near as bad as it was last year.
No, well, this is Modina's car, who's way back in 11th position. I understand we also have cameras on the cars of Patrese and Boutsen. It'll be interesting to see how they're dealing with the conditions. It will be different. The cockpit size of the Williams is a lot roomier than any of the other Grand Prix cars, and in conditions like this it sometimes comes into play. There you can see it's a 2.1 second advantage that Ayrton Senna has over Gerhard Berger as he comes into the slow corner, and there Nannini is staying in very close company. Alessi has dropped back a wee bit, but the smallest mistake in the rain here can cause you to lose a lot of time, and you can quickly gain it. That's Piquet going through there. There's Alessi. Nannini bouncing his way through. And there is Jean Alessi again. The Tyrrell is a very firm car, and you can see the spray, and you can see the condensation coming off of the rear wings there. See the vortex aerodynamic shape coming off, as you sometimes see in an aircraft. You can just see it at the back of the rear wing. That shows you the humidity we're experiencing around here. Jean Alessi, very, very talented man. The sparks that you saw earlier there, these are from titanium strips that are on the bottom of the car to stop the car from grinding itself away. The cars are very solid in suspension, not a lot of ground clearance, and when you run them very close to the ground, of course you get better air management control, the aerodynamics underneath the car. But to do that, obviously you have the risk over bumps of hitting the bottom and therefore grinding the car away. Nelson Piquet from Brazil, very experienced driver. You can see him working hard there.
Nelson Piquet winning here in Montreal in 1982 and 84. Jackie Stewart, the track appears to, at least on the line, be drying out somewhat. If you're just joining us, let me explain the situation again. They're on rain tires. They're considerably slower. As you look at the sharp right-hand hairpin at the east end of the island, they're considerably slower than normal racing tires.
I don't know what's going on here. That's one of the official pace cars that are out there. They're showing the white flag. He's got his flashing lights on, but the closing speed of these Grand Prix cars can often cause a big trouble. I think he's going out potentially to have had a look at that Martini car that was parked out on the racetrack. I don't understand why they would have done that at this point, but whether it was the doctor's car or whether it was the clerk of the course's car, I'm not quite sure why it was out there at this stage of the race.
Well, they are still racing, and there's your leader, Ayrton Senna. His teammate now, the Austrian, the former Ferrari driver at the west end of the island, Gerhard Berger. There's Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton Ford. He is running in the number 3 position, and they are followed by Jean Alesi, Nelson Piquet, Thierry Boutsen, Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, and Derek Warwick. Stay with us. Our live coverage of Grand Prix Molson, the 90 Canadian Grand Prix, will continue right after this.
In Canada, when someone moves into a place of their own, a traditional gathering is held. It's called a housewarming. Molson Canadian. The clean, cold taste of a genuine Canadian beer. But beer's all about.
While all engineers earn their degrees in school, ours are also graduates of a higher institution. Formula One Racing. Because those who learn to do it right in the first place have a tendency to finish there. The all-new 1990 Acura Integra.
As we see the onboard view from the car of Stefano Modena, the standings, Ayrton Senna the leader, followed by his teammate Berger. 6 of 70 laps completed here in Montreal. Jackie Stewart, as we look at Jean Alesi, that is car number 4, the Ken Tyrrell car running in the number 4 position. There's Briard in the Osella, and some of the cars at the back of this field. The track, now it's a little wet at the front here by the start-finish area, but it looks like it's drying out in some areas.
Yes, I think we're going to see a spate of pit stops quite soon, because what's going to occur is that I think the track is getting a groove on it. You can see, in fact, that Mansell was driving there a few moments ago on a piece of wet track to keep his tyres from overheating. So this, look, the shunt there, that's Nakajima by the looks of it. That was Nakajima that went off there in the Tyrrell car, but he came back on, no great damage. I would be surprised, however, if his front wing hadn't been damaged in some way, but that was just through congestion there. I can see Alex Caffey back there in the footwear arrows. But this is a very busy traffic jam we're looking at right here. That's Nakajima on the white car there. It really was very busy in there.
That is Griar in the Osella leading them through, followed by Alboreto, who is 15th. Nakajima is running 16th. There's Griard currently running 14th. Alio is running 17th for Ligier, and Wojtek for Onyx is running in the number 18 position. Our leader by now about a second and a half is Ayrton Senna over his teammate Berger with Nannini third, followed by Alesi, Piquet, and Boutsen. It is very wet in some areas. This is the north part of the track, but very dry in others. And again, it's been a strange day here in Montreal.
You can see the dry track just where the cars are going just now. In fact, it's very dry, and round here it's very dry. No spray from the wheels, as you can recognize. And round here there is literally no spray at all. This is quite a difficult decision now for the drivers to make. You're going to see some pit stops almost certainly coming. It'll be interesting to see how early Senna comes in. He's well known for making quick decisions in this area.
Jim Robinson doing a great job picking out the cars to follow. There is the number 25 Ligier of Nicole Larini. Nicole Larini is running in the number 17 position, and there is our leader. That is Ayrton Senna. Don't forget, if you're watching today in Montreal, you probably wondered when you saw a sign on, saw rays of sunshine about a half hour before race time. It was dry and warm here, and it looked like a cloudburst was occurring in downtown Montreal.
And there you see Derek Warwick coming through here, and here's a little tangle. Donnelly, it looked like. And that's, I think that's Modena going through there. And that really did not show me a great deal.
Only one Brabham racing here. That is Modena. His teammate David Brabham, the son of Australian great Black Jack, did not qualify this year in Montreal. Brabhams have won the Canadian Grand Prix on 4 occasions, including the inaugural race in 1967 at Mosport. That was won by Jack Brabham himself. There's Gerhard Berger, now a couple of seconds behind his teammate Ayrton Senna. Jean Alesi has moved into third place ahead of Nelson Piquet. Piquet running fourth. Thierry Boutsen is now fifth, followed by Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, Ricardo Patrese, Derek Warwick, and Martin Donnelly for the top 10 at this point in the race. Ayrton Senna, a winner in 2 races, 2 of 4 races so far in 1990. He won in Arizona and won 2 weeks ago in Monaco. Gerhard Berger. Berger appeared, Jackie Stewart, there's Nannini. Berger appeared to be having some problems early on. Prior to the start of this race, he was in and out of the car.
It looks we've just been given information that, in fact, Gerhard Berger has been disqualified. He's not featuring in our current standings, and it could be that he's disqualified for jumping the start. Now, that is very unusual. If the disqualification is based on him anticipating the start, it would normally be that you get a 1-minute penalty for doing such a thing, as I think I speculated right at the top of the program, at least at the beginning of the race. But it definitely is missing now from our current standings after 7 laps. So of course you're still seeing him. He's in the race. That was him. It just went out of our program. But Berger, there he is in our shot right now. He is definitely dropped out of our standings here, and that man, Nannini, is now in second position. Officially, we are told from the organisers. We have not yet been given official reasons for any disqualification, but it would look like that's what's occurred. On the other hand, if he were penalised 1 minute, he would not be featuring in our top 18. So it could be that he is back, right back, with a 1-minute penalty, but we'll have to check up on that.
Whatever the event, either the disqualification or the 1-minute penalty, it started at the start of the race. Berger from the number 2 position actually jumped the green light and almost overtook his teammate and pole sitter Michele Alboreto. That's Riccardo Patrese driving in his 196th Formula One race. That is the all-time record. He has only 3 Formula One victories. He won this year at Imola, and that was his first Formula One victory since back at Kyalami in South Africa in 1983. You mentioned earlier, Jackie, when you were talking with him, that he's a former downhill skier. He's an outstanding soccer player and a very, very popular driver.
He's a very nice man, and he's mellowed over the years. There was a time when he was slightly respectable, to say the least. Nowadays, he's much more mature in his outlook, and in fact, I think a very good team member. He's being pushed pretty hard right there by Derek Warwick, who is a very good wet weather driver, and there's one of our first pit stops, it would seem. It would seem that we've got, it's more than a pit stop for tyres in this particular case. I think there is some damage done there. We'll have to wait and see, but they're round that car like flies. It's not able to be jacked up. The jack, I think, got jammed underneath the car. He may have run over it.
That is one of the Lamborghinis. I believe it's car number 29, belonging to Eric Bernard, the Frenchman. And right now, as we look at the Lamborghini back out on the track, Patrese is running in the number 8 position. He is followed. There's his teammate, Thierry Boutsen, car number 5, who is actually running in position number 5. And into the pits comes Riccardo Patrese. Patrese currently in 8th place. Could be the tire change you would forecast.
Yes, this is an official tire change. The clock's not running, but it will be a little longer than I would have anticipated there. The clock is running 12, 13 seconds. That's very long for Riccardo Patrese. 15.11 seconds. We recorded it. 15.11 seconds, about twice as much as he should have been, in fact. So he won't be pleased with that. Neither will the Williams team, because they're normally faster than that. Keep in mind that you've got to slow down to get into the pits and then get back out again. So it's basically about 30 seconds that you lose by coming into the pits. Now, Patrese's a crafty old fox. If you do 197 Grand Prix, you'll learn a lot of habits. It'll be interesting to see when this man comes in. And here we have a replay of an earlier set of circumstances that obviously caught somebody by surprise. And there you see the front end of that car has been damaged. There's a wing damage on that car on the left front wheel.
That was the Lola Lamborghini of Eric Bernard that we saw in the pits earlier. Through 10 laps, 10 out of 70 in this 1990 Canadian Grand Prix. Your leader is Brazilian Ayrton Senna. He has 22 career victories. Has won 2 of 4 races so far in 1990. There is Jean Alesi being challenged and passed on the back by, it looks like,
Nelson Piquet.
It is Nelson Piquet.
And Nelson Piquet puts himself now into 3rd position. So the Benetton Ford team are now sitting in 2nd and 3rd position, a result that they have not enjoyed ever, I don't think, in Grand Prix racing. So Jean Alesi is having a little bit of trouble there, keeping up. He's working hard at it, obviously. Very talented young Frenchman who's certainly going to go far. Incidentally, Berger seems to be missing also. It looks like Berger spun somewhere because he's no longer up behind his own teammate, although we've seen now, ooh, that was a little tricky too.
And that is our leader, Senna, lapping car 14, the Osella of Olivier Briard, the Frenchman. So it's Ayrton Senna, one of the Delaras off, as well as one of the Arrows. That looks like Michele Alboreto.
Alboreto, and that's the team Scuderia for Italia behind there. It is Alboreto, and his car, and here's Senna coming into the pits. This is Senna in the pits. He's up at the very top end of the pits. This is his pit he's going into now. Now let's see how they maul this car of tyre. Getting his windscreen done, he'll probably get a full service lane there. You can see the clock running for us is 7.96 seconds. 15 seconds. Consider that against the Tracy's that was over 15 seconds. So now that puts Sandro Nannini into the lead. So Sandro Nannini now leads this Canadian Grand Prix, but he's in the pits as well.
No, that's Piquet in the pits. Nannini is still on the course. This is Nannini's teammate Piquet, who was running 2nd at the time after Senna went in. But there's our leader for Benetton Ford, Alessandro Nannini. So that means that Senna has now moved back into 2nd place. Piquet, for the time being, still in the pits, is standing 3rd. Also into the pits, one of the Camel Lotuses.
Derek Warwick, the English driver, workmanlike driver, getting his helmet well washed there, and he went out briskly. That was a good stop, and he nearly lost it, in fact, in the pit lane.
Derek Warwick currently standing in the number 8 position. Your leader is Italian Alessandro Nannini. He is followed by Ayrton Senna, Jean Alesi, Nelson Piquet, now listed as being in 4th place. Here's the pass earlier. That is when Nannini went by Jean Alesi.
Piquet passing Alesi. That was a masterful move he made there, and he was right on the limit. You could see the car being stretched in adhesion, but Nannini now very firmly got a grasp of this race. Now it's a question of when he's going to come in. It's all down to wisdom, timing, and good fortune, because he's going to have to come in at some time or another. It's a question of when he comes in. Now the order as we have it at the present time officially after 12 laps is Nannini, Alesi, Boutsen, Prost and Senna back in 5th position, but look at them all piling into the pits. There's Terry Boutsen going in there, and there's the Ferrari. There's Prost in, number 1, and the clock is running on him.
So that means Nannini, the leader, is on the track, followed by Senna, but in the pits are Alesi, Boutsen, and Prost. Prost is first out of the pits in less than 8 seconds. The number 1 Ferrari of the defending world champion. Prost is back on the track and will move into 3rd place.
And you can see how dry the track is from our helicopter shot there. At that part of the circuit, the slow hairpin, there is no dampness at all. So how long Nannini can stay out there, I think, is really very marginal. And there's a pass or two going to happen right there. There is our leader. He has to come in very soon, believe me.
Our leader at this point in the 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix is Alessandro Nannini. Stay with us. Live coverage will continue from Montreal on Sports Weekend.
All right, you fixed stew? He said, yeah, I fixed a big stew. He pulls up this big pot and sits it up on the stove. I said, oh, great. I start lighting the fire and look in there, and here's water. I'm looking around, there's about 2 potatoes.
Oh, come on.
There was. And then there's only a couple chunks.
Last time you said that, there were like 10 potatoes.
I don't know, there's just nothing in there. No meat.
The last story I heard.
Exaggerated.
Oh. Always exaggerated.
OV, real life beer.
One Tough Motor Oil announces one tough guarantee. The Quaker State 400,000 kilometers or 10-year guarantee. Register your new car at a participating service center. Then use only Quaker State. Have oil and filter changed as directed at a service center. And if any lubricated engine part suffers an oil-related breakdown within 400,000 kilometers or 10 years, you're covered. Quaker State guarantees it in writing. The big Q is one Tough Motor Oil.
And on a cloudy but thus far dry Sunday afternoon, I'm Brian Williams along with 3-time world champion Jackie Stewart and Barry Gill from Great Britain as we welcome you back to live coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix. There are the rain tires. They started with rain tires. Look how hot they are. They have been taken out and for the most part replaced by dry tires. But Jackie, our leader, Alessandro Nannini in car number 19, the first of the Benetton Fords, has yet to pit for dry tires.
This will certainly be costing him time on the track because the dry tire itself is quite a penalty. It's just not so stable. Let's see, he comes into the pits. He's coming into the pits. Our leader is coming in. Let's watch what this is. Here he comes in. Now this brings Senna back into the lead, by the way. And here we're looking for Nannini's time. Let's watch him.
I've got a clock on it now. 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds, 11, 12. A slow pit stop, officially 12.94 seconds as the Italian Nannini comes out and we have a new leader. It is Ayrton Senna, but that is Senna's teammate you're looking at. If we can stay with Berger for just a minute, Jackie, you were absolutely right on your speculation. What's the situation?
The situation is that he has been penalized by 1 minute, 60 seconds in time for anticipating the start. He also had a little spin, incidentally, and he has come back from that spin and came through and passed his own teammate, as a matter of fact. So he's been on it since he's been back on the track. but it really depends. If it rains again, there's a chance for Gerhard Berger, but if it doesn't rain, he'll never make up 60 seconds. He could get into the top 6, incidentally. Quite easily, he could do that, and I think he'll be charging for that.
Gerhard Berger is currently running in the number 11 position. This is the onboard camera of the number 8 Brabham, driven by the Italian Stefano Modena. Modena right now running well back in the field in the number 17 position. David Brabham did not qualify here, so he is the lone Brabham driver in this race.
You know, it's quite interesting to look at the mirror. That's the mirror you see in the center of your screen. Look how dirty it is from the bad weather and the spray. Very difficult for anybody to see clearly what's happening behind them. This is one of the penalties, and that's one of the footwork errors ahead of him, I think, that he's battling with at the present time. Or it could be JJ Leto, but he, in fact, is busy looking out for what's ahead rather than what's behind at this time. Stefano Modena, one of the new talents to come along, but look how wet the track is here outside of the groove. You can see what the driver has to deal with. If he makes the slightest error, Brian, he can immediately slip off and get into that wet stuff, which of course is treacherous.
Our leader is Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna is leading Alessandro Nannini. Nannini is second, followed by Prost and Alesi.
And in fact, he's just passing our camera car, Senna is. That's Modena, and you can see the McLaren is going to draw away now. Look at the horsepower advantage. Probably about 70 horsepower advantage Senna has, and just look what he's done in that one section of the racetrack.
If we can stay with this shot for a minute, it shows you, as Jackie pointed out, the tremendous acceleration advantage. Look at that, how he pulls away.
Well, you can't buy horsepower unless you pay a lot of money for it, and that's what Honda have done. They've paid a great deal of money for the privilege of having that kind of horsepower. Stefano Modena, that's the car you're seeing in your picture now. Here's this pass one more time. Stefano's on the right-hand side, Berger's ahead, and there's Senna. Almost lost it under braking, getting back into the dry line so that he could make a better bite at the corner. But there he is, Ayrton Senna, still leading this race. Very aggressive man indeed in a racing car. The fastest Grand Prix driver in the world today. Makes around $10 million a year, which should be all right for him. Alesi has dropped back quite a bit, incidentally, for you supporters. He's back now in 11th position.
There is car number 1, the Ferrari of defending world champion Alain Prost. Alain Prost is currently now in second place. Prost is currently in second place as Nannini dropped down considerably with that long pit stop of about 13 seconds. So there is Alain Prost, followed by Thierry Boutsen. You'll see Nelson Piquet come through. Piquet is running 4th. Nigel Mansell in the other Ferrari is running 5th. Warwick is 6th. Patrese 7th. Berger 8th. Larini is 9th. And Martin Donnelly is running in the number 10 position.
Well, Alain Prost, of course, the professor as a driver, and everybody sees him as that today. He's a thinking driver. He's a man who doesn't do very much without a lot of thought. Now, Barry Gill's down on the pitch. Barry, can you hear us? Barry, are you with us?
Well, behind me, Jackie and Brian, there's a very disappointed McLaren pit. They have just been informed that Berger has been penalised 1 minute for jumping the start. If I know the Austrian, he'll be doing everything he can to make up for that. But that, of course, is a terrible blow for the team, and particularly for Gerhard Berger. Back to you, Brian.
All right, Barry, that means Berger is now running in the number 8 position. Look at this battle. Let's stay with this. This is Thierry Boutsen, the defending champion for Frank Williams, all over the number 1 Ferrari of Alain Prost. How about this as they come down through the start-finish area at close to 200 miles an hour. A right, left, and then sharp right turn and back up along the north side of Ile Notre Dame as the track continues to dry. They're now on racing tires. Thierry Boutsen, the defending champion, running in the number 3 position. But we should point out, Jackie, that both Prost and Boutsen are some 20 seconds behind our leader, the runaway leader right now, Ayrton Senna.
Very difficult for Thierry Boutsen to pass here because, as you can see, there's a narrow groove which is dry, and then out of that narrow groove, as you can see here, is that wet surface. You'll see it in both sides of the groove. They're very obvious to you. Now, how on earth, when cars are so evenly matched, can you find the space to pass. Only if Alain Prost makes a mistake can Terry Boutsen really take advantage of him, because it would be very difficult for him to outbrake Alain Prost, because it would be generally having to be done in a wet groove, other than on this corner, which is totally dry. So perhaps in the next lap or two, you might see Boutsen coming alongside and using a little bit of shoulder. That's about the only place he can do it. Of course, a lot of people following Boutsen with great passion. He's, of course, French-speaking, as is Alain Prost. He won here last year, and there's always a little bit of sentiment for the defending champion. Big following here. Here we are at the Molson Grand Prix of Canada. One of his major sponsors is Labatt, so there's a lot of people cheering for them. So the two beer companies are enjoying a bit of success.
As we run down the standings through 18 of 70 laps, it's Ayrton Senna leading, followed by car number 1 of Alain Prost. Right behind him is the number 5 Williams of defending champion Thierry Boutsen. Boutsen is third. Nelson Piquet is running fourth. And look at this. The gap is now nearly 30 seconds. Oh! Boutsen in a smash. That is Boutsen trying to go by Alain Prost, colliding with one of the Ligers.
That was exactly what happened there, was based on getting off the groove and getting into that wet. I'm afraid his car will be fairly heavily damaged. He'll drive it round and try and get into the pit lane to have a new nose cone and wings fixed up. So that's the story there. That driver, here we see the thing again.
That's Nicole Larini. Let's have another look.
It's on the wet. That's where it happened. And Alain Prost avoided that really in a very mature fashion. But I'm afraid Terry anticipated that he could get through there. Frankly, I think it was rather a brave move. I doubt whether Alain Prost would have attempted that same move. Terry Boutsen, the defending champion, I would have to say, is now out of contention.
And also, is that a Lacey?
Yep. No, yes, it is. It's a Lacey. He's had a little spin.
That is Jean Alesi, Ken Tyrrell's number 1 driver, who has finished second at Phoenix and Monaco. But Jackie Stewart, I said at the top of the show, you're the best in the business. There's our leader, Ayrton Senna. And boy, you called that exactly right. During a commercial break earlier, he said, if they get outside that dry area, look out, because they're going to spin all over the track. And that's exactly what happened here in Montreal this afternoon. So now, with Boutsen banging into Larini's Ligier, Senna has widened his lead.
Of course, Alain Prost is still safe and sound. All he had to do was run over some of the debris. Now that could cause him a trouble, because all of that broken fiberglass, some of it was on the track. Let's hope none of these tires were affected by that, because just as we in our road cars can pick up nails and get cut tires, racing cars are even more vulnerable because they're thinner and lighter.
And down through the start-finish area comes our leader, Ayrton Senna. There's Alain Prost, the defending world champion, who has now moved into the number 2 position. Stay with us. CBC Sports Weekend's live coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix will continue right after this.
If you like a taste that's fresh and crisp, if you want a beer that's brewed the Rocky Mountain way, it's the right beer now. Reach for the Silver Bullet. It's got that clean, clear taste that goes the distance.
The decade of the 90s will bring many new automotive designs, inspired merely by how they will look in the showroom. This is our totally redesigned Honda Accord. And this is our showroom.
We are on the 22nd of 70 laps here at Grand Prix Molson, the 1990 Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. Ayrton Senna leading with Alain Prost, and 2-time winner Nelson Piquet third. There is Alain Prost, Jackie Stewart, and he is beginning to pull away a bit from Piquet, but Senna is pulling away from the rest of the field. The professor, Alain Prost, with a Formula One record, 40 career victories, is currently standing second. Very quickly, let's once again go to the pits and Barry Gill. Barry?
As we wait with the Williams mechanics for the entry of Thierry Boutsen to have a look at that damage, we hear of the strangest pit stop I can recall in all my Canadian Grand Prix. Alessandro Nannini had to come in with a punctured left front tyre because he'd run over a groundhog. I believe over here it's known as a marmot. No report on the condition of the animal, but certainly Nannini wasn't pleased.
All right, very, very interesting. That explains why Nannini has gone down so far in the standings. Nannini is now currently standing in the number 17 position. The Ferrari of Nigel Mansell, that is car number 2. Mansell is currently running in 4th place. That's Nelson Piquet in front of him, car number 20. The Benetton Ford with that big Ford 190 engine. Piquet, a 3-time world champion, has won twice here in Montreal. So it's Senna, Prost, Piquet, Mansell, Warwick, Berger, and Patrese.
I'd have to prophesy that Nigel Mansell is going to pass Nelson Piquet. This will be very interesting because Nelson Piquet is not nearly as aggressive as a driver as Nigel Mansell. So I think you might be going to see a little bit of elbow work here. Of course, they are 3 enormously experienced drivers. Very experienced. Derek Warwick coming out of the hairpin, also an experienced driver. Derek Warwick's in 5th position, which is a pretty good story.
If they can hear us, we'd like to go back to that battle between Mansell, there it is, Mansell and Piquet. Mansell, as he comes up the north side of the island, all over Nelson Piquet, but as Jackie Stewart so astutely pointed out, look at the dry part of the track. It's very tough to pass. And that's Nannini. That's Nannini, who has had a crash.
And here's the crash replay as he comes in here again using that piece of wind rod. The car was uncontrollable and he spun it one way, and that almost happened incidentally to Ayrton Senna. The car really flew into the air there, colliding heavily with the tyre wall as we lose sight of it here. And those tyre walls are remarkably good for safety because they're deformable structures, and you could see almost the energy being absorbed when it hit that tyre wall, which is backed up against a metal barrier. That accident was almost a copybook to what almost happened to Ayrton Senna, the man in the centre of your picture right there, when he was lapping a car earlier on. I did say he got a little squirmish under it, and it's because of that wet weather situation. So what we're going to see here with the battle that we're going to have to keep an eye on with regards to Piquet and Mansell, as well as that of Prost, I think is going to be of great interest. This is where that previous accident occurred, and the yellow flag on the right-hand side of your picture was showing there. And the reason for that is a yellow flag is that there is potential danger. Another Alesi coming through, passing Donnelly, but he chose to do it at the right place. He's done it. What a masterful move. He's second-guessing. Wonderful. That was a young driver with enormous aggression. And there you see Senna coming through as well. He'll move. And you saw Alesi nodding his head there. He saw Senna in his mirror. And well, Senna got through now.
Alesi has now gone ahead of Donnelly into the number 8 position. Ayrton Senna is about to lap Jean Alesi. Senna, the leader, about to lap Alesi right there.
He's done it.
He's done it. That means Alesi is running in the number 8 position and is more than a lap behind the leader, Ayrton Senna. It's Ayrton Senna now by 35 seconds over Alain Prost, followed very closely by Nelson Piquet, Nigel Mansell, Gerhard Berger, Derek Warwick, Ricardo Patrese, and Jean Alesi.
Ayrton Senna, the master of going faster, as George Harrison in one of his records once said. A man who simply is super fast at the present time. We've had a Gruyere, I think that is, or that's one of the Italians, I believe.
That was Gruyere in the Osella, car number 14, the Frenchman from Toulouse, France.
Yeah. Well, he had a little moment, obviously. And look how Alesi's sticking to Senna. That was interesting. That's Berger coming through there. Yeah, Berger, the one car, and there is Berger.
Followed by Gruyere. then the Dallara, car number 22. That is Crash Andrea de Cesaris. And there's your leader, car number 27, the brilliant Brazilian Ayrton Senna. Outstanding camera shot, gives you the sense of speed as they come along the south portion of the island. They'll go into the chicane and then down past this start-finish area. Right now comes Alesi. That's de Cesaris, Griard, Alesi, Senna trying to move up. He has lapped them all.
Whoa, that move by Alesi there was pretty adventurous, because that car in the middle was a Sangmead, because Senna went on one side and Alesi went on the other. But look, he's not losing touch with Senna. That's a very interesting fact now. Senna's probably backing off a little bit because he's got a considerable amount of time in hand. He's got over 35 seconds in hand. But it's not doing Alesi any harm to tag on to him, because when the blue flags wave from the flag marshal to tell the cars in front that there's a car close behind, Alesi can sometimes run through that overtaking maneuver with the leader.
As we look at car number 4, Jean Alesi, his hero, the late Gilles Villeneuve. Villeneuve's picture still hangs prominently at the Alesi home in southern France. There's your leader, Ayrton Senna, as they come down to the hairpin turn at the east end of Ile Notre Dame. There's Gerhard Berger. Gerhard Berger followed by car 36. That is the Onyx of Finland's J.J. Leto. And Berger has worked his way up. I tell you, Stuart, you predicted he could go into the top 6. Berger is now running in the number 5 position. That, in spite of the fact as he comes through the start-finish area, this is Gerhard Berger currently running 5th. He is on the same lap as his teammate and leader Ayrton Senna. All this in spite of the fact he was penalized 1 minute for jumping the start at the beginning of this race.
Gerhard really has a lot to prove at the present time. He's been suffering from a number 2 syndrome. He's the number 2 man in that team as he sees it at the present time. He hasn't been able to exercise the kind of authority that he would like to, and therefore Senna's getting all of the attention, all of the press, and frankly all of the success. For Gerhard Berger to change that, he really has to beat Ayrton Senna head-to-head. I think this race could have been the one to do it. But jumping the start doesn't let you win any motor races, because there's a very good chance you're going to be penalised. Alain Prost being pushed pretty hard right now, it would seem. There's the car of Alain Prost, and close behind it is also the car of Nelson Piquet. Oh, and there's a big shot. That's
Alesi. Right into Nannini's car. He has crashed into the Nannini wreck. That is on the north side of the island, facing downtown Montreal. Good news, Alesi is out of the Tyrrell car.
I tell you what I was looking at was his arms, because the only time you're going to be injured in a race crash like that right now is if your arms are being thrown out of the cockpit of the car. This same place, he's going to try that same braking maneuver, and he does it. He does exactly the same as Nannini, copybook all the way. Watch the car leave the ground here. It jumps up, and look, now it hits the other car, and when it hits the other car, it rides up on the other vehicle. Bang! And the car gets launched into the air. That indeed was a very heavy accident. That car will be severely damaged, as also will be the car of Nannini's. So for Benetton and the Tyrrell team, that was an expensive few seconds you just witnessed.
And again, it's all occurring as Jackie Stewart so astutely pointed out early in this race, because of the dry and wet conditions on the track. The line is dry. That is the line you see where the racers take. However, to pass, you have to get outside of that dry line. Now, again, these are on racing tires. Racing tires are as smooth as a baby's bottom, and they'll slide all over a wet surface.
Incidentally, you're looking now at the battle for second place between Alain Prost and Nelson Piquet. We've lost sight in our picture of Nigel Mansell, but they are still a long way behind, 29.5 seconds and more behind Ayrton Senna. Incidentally, the 2 spin-outs that you saw, the reason that they occurred being on the wet surface was that the drivers moved the braking balance towards the rear wheels when it's wet. And when that occurs, when you put the brakes on, there's a little more brake on the rear than there is on the front. And you'll remember when you saw that spin out, the back end fishtailed to begin with is because of too much rear brake. So that's where it's very delicate. But this is a great battle now between Piquet and Prost. Look how close Piquet is to Prost right now. Under braking, the Benetton seems to be doing a better job than the Ferrari.
All right, I know they want to go to commercial. Can you hang on? Don't go to commercial for just a minute. It looks like they are going to make a move. Piquet and Prost As we look at the Brabham, there comes Piquet in the distance. He is all over Alain Prost. Let's see if we can get this pass as they come down through the start-finish area. That is the Brabham of Stefano Modena. Alain Prost is car number 1. He is running second. Car number 20 is Nelson Piquet, a former 3-time world champion who is currently running third. He's all over Alain Prost as up they go across the north side of Ile Notre Dame.
The time for this to take place is about 15 seconds more to 20 seconds more. They'll come out of this corner. They're coming along to the old hairpin. It's about half a mile away, and under braking it did look like Piquet had more ability to get the hooks on than Prost. It may be that the brake balance is slightly better. This is now entering the part of racetrack where they had the incident earlier on. This was where we've had both incidents. Now, it seems that Piquet's dropped back a little bit, so he's going to lose a chance for overtaking on this lap.
We will wait until they go through that hairpin turn. Here it is. Piquet will not be able to overtake Alain Prost. This is the view from the onboard camera of car number 8, Stefano Modena. Stay with us. You are watching live coverage of the 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix. We will continue from Ile Notre Dame in Montreal right after this.
The 1990 Acura Integra sedan. An automobile that can make getting there considerably more than half the fun.
Hey, you guys hear about Goodyear's big Grand Slam tire sale? 4 tires for the price of 3.
4 for the price of 3? Why didn't you tell me? I did. You did not. I told you, but you did not tell me about this. I never heard a word I'd say. What?
Did you hear that? 4 tires for the price of 3? Yep. Deals like that don't come along every day.
Let me see here. 4, carry the 3. Wow, that's a good deal.
The Goodyear Grand Slam tire sale. 4 for the price of 3 on selected tires and many other great values.
Now to get to Goodyear, go down here, turn right. Now then.
On what has so far been a dry Sunday afternoon, we're approaching the halfway mark of this 70-lap race. The onboard camera in the number 8 Brabham. There it is, car 8 right there of Stefano Modena as he pursues Nigel Mansell in the number 2 Ferrari. I'm Brian Williams along with 3-time world champion Jackie Stewart and England's Barry Gill. The situation is this. Ayrton Senna leads by 30 seconds, but there's a tremendous battle. This is Mansell. Mansell is 4th. He's trying to come up. That is Griard in front of him. Griard is more than a lap down. Mansell wants to move up on Piquet. He goes by Griard. There is Nelson Piquet, who's 3rd. Now here's Nigel Mansell. Watch Mansell move up on Nelson Piquet. Alain Prost is currently running 2nd.
Well, traffic has been responsible for opening the gaps up here between Prost and Piquet and Mansell, because with the groove still being as narrow as you can see it right now, and you can see it also through the onboard camera that we have of Stefano Modena, you can see that grey area is the dry track, and the shiny area on each side of it is of course very wet. That is a serious problem for getting past slower cars, so they have to stand up in line and wait for the piece of dry track to do their overtaking maneuver. This area of the track, as we pointed out earlier, is completely dry at the hairpin. Alain Prost comes through that hairpin and accelerates with car number 1. He's the reigning world champion. They have the right to have that car number 1. Then comes Nelson Piquet. He's in 1st position, and then Nigel Mansell is behind him.
And right now, very quickly, Barry Gill. Barry?
Could you tell us what happened, Nicola?
I don't know. I changed the tires and the boots touched me at the slow chicane on the side of the circuit. I don't know what's happened.
This was when Boutsen was trying to overtake you, was it?
No, sorry, I don't understand.
This was when Boutsen was trying to overtake you?
Yes, yeah. Boutsen touched me. Yeah.
And how badly damaged is your car?
My car is going better, and with the wet tire. The car, it was good. After the pit lane, I changed the tire, and I was at my first laps.
That's very bad luck. Thank you for talking to us, Nicola. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Barry. That is Nicola Larini, whose Ligier was bumped by Thierry Boutsen, where Jackie Stewart predicted they'd have trouble. The Ligier crashed into the tires. Now later, Nannini also crashed, and Alesi went into Nannini. Fortunately, Alesi was not injured, but Alesi, Nannini, and defending champion Boutsen all out. There is our leader, Ayrton Senna. The Brazilian leading now by less than 30 seconds over the Professor Alain Prost. Prost is second. Running third is two-time Canadian Grand Prix champion Nelson Piquet. Nigel Mansell in the second Ferrari is fourth. Gerhard Berger, the McLaren teammate of this man, penalized 1 minute for jumping the gun at the start, has moved all the way up to the number 5 position. Patrese for Frank Williams is running 6th. Derek Warwick for Camel is running 11th, and his teammates are running 7th in the number 11 car, and his teammate Martin Donnelly is in the number 8 position. Rounding out the top 10, Stefano Modena and Alexander Caffey in the Arrows.
Weather has improved considerably. The groove is widening. The humidity is still very high. There is very little wind. Not enough to dry the track as quickly as most of the drivers would like, but you can see from our camera right now how dry that track is. The corner you're just looking at is being exited in wonderful racing cars at around about it's about 296 kilometers, so it's a very fast speed. This is another tricky section of the racetrack as Ayrton Senna does it with great coolness. Relatively slow corner. There's a little bumping there in the first lap. Here you see Alain Prost coming through in second position. And through this flick, this left to right flick, very delicate indeed. Prost has got that advantage, but you can see the second car in the street is that of Nelson Piquet. So he's got to keep his eye on Piquet as well as making sure he gets through the traffic in the most, let's say, less troublesome fashion. You could lose a second to 2 seconds a lap in traffic here, and all the hard work that you've honed away to save hundreds of seconds round each corner can suddenly be dissolved by one of the back markers not observing his mirror correctly and really not allowing the faster cars to overtake.
As we look at Alain Prost, Jackie, the drivers love coming to Montreal. They all say this is one of the great cities they visit. They also like this course, but there was a lot of criticism of this course after the opening day of practice on Friday. They're doing some major renovation here to some of the inland ponds, and the dust, it's not yet sodded, was blowing on the track. It's one of the few times that Senna and Prost have agreed on anything, but I think the rain, if anything, the drivers say, has cleaned up this racetrack.
Well, I have to tell you that I believe myself that the track were at fault. They could easily have vacuumed the racetrack. They do it at other racetracks around the world. The track was ridiculously dirty. Once the groove was created by those race cars, if you moved a few centimeters out of the groove, the car was likely to fly off the track. Racing drivers don't expect that, certainly not Grand Prix drivers. The track should be brought up to condition in the same way as the US Open Golf Championship course will be brought up to championship conditions, and no golfer would expect less, neither should a Grand Prix driver expect anything less.
Right now, you just saw Prost being pursued by Piquet. Mansell is running fourth. Our leader, as we look at car number 22, that is the Dallara of the veteran Andrea de Cesaris. Right now, I mentioned earlier a couple of spectacular accidents, one involving Nannini, the other involving Jean Alesi. Barry, I understand you're with Nannini.
Alessandro, you seem to have had a very unlucky afternoon. What's been happening?
It happened after when I changed the tires the first time. I started with a slick. I checked to pass Capelli. When I checked to pass Capelli, there was I don't know, something, some animals or some other things in the circuit, because I got in the straight because I didn't see anything. I come out, I got something in the straight. Maybe Capelli moved.
No, it was a small animal, a groundhog, a Canadian animal. Animals obviously don't like you.
Maybe the little animal who stay in the river. I don't know what happened, but it was bigger because he completely destroyed my front tires and my wing.
Alessandro, it's a pity because you'd had a very good weekend, hadn't you? You must be feeling much happier with the car.
Yeah, the car was very good. I could keep the speed of McLaren. Maybe I couldn't fight for the beginning, but in the end of the race, maybe they have some little problem for the consumption. And I could arrive in a good position. I'm bad lucky.
Thank you for talking to us, Alessandro, anyway. Back to you, Brian and Jackie.
All right, Barry Gill, that is Alessandro Nannini as we look at our leader, Ayrton Senna. So Dave Winfield had trouble with Seagulls in Toronto. Alessandro Nannini has trouble with Groundhogs in Montreal. Car number 6, Riccardo Patrese, a winner this year at Imola, is currently running in the number 6 position. Right after Patrese, the yellow car of Derek Warwick. There is our leader, Ayrton Senna. So Senna is about to lap the number 7 car of Warwick. Warwick, car number 11, standing in the number 7 position.
I would have to say also that Senna's going to pass, some speculation, he's going to pass not only Warwick but also Patrese. But I think actually Warwick is severely threatening Patrese, and I could easily see that developing into a pass by Warwick. But there Senna clips off one of the cars, and that's now put the man in 7th position, back 1 lap. So you can judge by that the pace of our race leader Ayrton Senna. Now he has to pick off Riccardo Patrese, which I think he'll do during this lap, if not at the beginning of the next one. And of course that has dropped back a little bit Derek Warwick, who had worked so hard to get into a fighting position with Patrese. Incidentally, I was a little confused by Nannini's explanation. I wasn't quite sure whether he was suggesting that the groundhog had something to do with his accident, but I'd rather think that that was not the case.
Well, I think you called it correctly, as now we see Senna all over Patrese. Patrese, car 6, is in the number 6 position. Down the south side of Ile Notre Dame and into the start-finish area they'll come. You at the time, I think, called it. Nannini was trying to pass on the wet portion of the track with dry tires that, as I said earlier, are smoother than a baby's bottom and they have no traction. It's still Ayrton Senna trying to lap car number 6 of Riccardo Patrese, and he has done it. So that means there are only 5 cars on the same lap. They are Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet, Nigel Mansell, and his teammate Gerhard Berger. Senna with now a 31-second lead. But in spite of that fact, it has been a tremendously exciting Molson Canadian Grand Prix here today. Stay with us, a lot more to come. Our live coverage will continue from Ile Notre Dame in Montreal on Sports Weekend.
Quick. Sharp and quick. Competing, trying to win, the feeling of speed, the feeling of risk, the feeling of driving the limit, being right on the edge. Be brave and be afraid. And that's a fantastic feeling. Oh yes, I love it.
The Molson Indy. Be there.
Can your motor oil take the heat? When today's engines reach high running temperatures, motor oil can thin out, break down, and leave engine surfaces unprotected. But Castrol XLR has been engineered to maintain a lubricating film, even at extreme engine temperatures. At Castrol, we believe if you can't take the heat, get out of the engine.
As we come back live to Montreal, this is the battle for second place. There's car number 1, the Ferrari of Prost, and all over him is Nelson Piquet, who is running 3rd. The other Ferrari, Mansell, is 4th. Our leader by more than 30 seconds is Ayrton Senna. Down through the start-finish area, Prost, Piquet, and there comes Nigel Mansell. Hang on, are we going to have some excitement here? As Piquet is now trying to move into the number 2 position, that means the Brazilians would be running 1st and 2nd as Ayrton Senna leads now by 30 seconds.
It definitely seems to me that Piquet's car is better under braking. The place that you can see it best is in the slow hairpin. He's also much faster through the very quick chicane that leads on to the pits. really Alan seems to be just taking a little bit easy, if you like. It's not easy because he's still flicking through there in 5th gear at about 290 kilometers, but it's this next section that you can see the difference in braking. Just watch this now. Nannini is too far behind to make a pass on this lap, and Nigel Mansell, in fact, is closed up a little bit. But there's definitely gains a little bit on Prost.
There's Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet, and Nigel Mansell, Piquet's teammate. Alessandro Nannini, involved in an accident, spinning out and crashing earlier. Also out of the race is the young star for Ken Tyrrell, Jean Alesi, involved in a rather spectacular crash, but fortunately he was not injured. Now this is Derek Warwick and Riccardo Patrese. Patrese is 6th, and Warwick is running in the number 7 position, but they are more than a lap down behind the leaders.
This is a good battle, in fact, because Derek Warwick and the Lamborghini engine Camel Lotus has not had a great year so far. The Lotus team have been going through a lot of the doldrums. On the other hand, the Williams team with their Renault engine have been really very competitive from the beginning of the season. And of course at Imola, Patrese did win that race, and it was a power race, so it was very impressive that the Williams has been really able to beat the Ferrari and the McLaren. But it's interesting, this Lamborghini in the Camel Lotus is now beginning to really come of age, so they've been really looking for a long time for a break in performance.
We have now run 40 out of 70 scheduled laps here in Montreal through the start-finish area, and Derek Warwick has done it.
That was a power one. I'm afraid that it may be that the power plant in Patrese's car is slightly sick, because where Derek Warwick was able to overtake, frankly, was in a place I wouldn't have expected him to make such a confident move with such ease. So I rather feel that maybe the Lamborghini engine is performing much better than the Renault just at the moment. But here we go again. Look at in traffic. Piquet's closed right up on Alain Prost, and there Nigel gets through as well.
Well, as I said, in spite of the fact Senna's got this big lead, it has been a tremendously exciting afternoon, one of the best races I've seen here in 7 or 8 years. It's Ferrari, Benetton, and that Ferrari, he is running 4th. That is Nigel Mansell. Here they come. Prost 2nd. Running 3rd is Piquet, and running 4th is Mansell. They're coming up on car number 12. That is Martin Donnelly, who is running in the number 8 position, and they will lap him. Donnelly more than a lap down behind the leader, Ayrton Senna.
Well, Prost should get through here under braking. He hasn't made the move. That means that the other 2 drivers are going to be very close by him as they accelerate out of here. Interesting to see the power, because Donnelly's in the Lamborghini engine. Prost is trying to find a way through, not easily getting it. Hasn't got it there. Another fast part of the racetrack here. Lamborghini Camel Lotus there in front, the yellow car you're looking at, and look how tight the 3 cars are behind. Look out for Mansell trying to nip inside Piquet. And look how close Piquet is, and he tries to overtake but doesn't get through. This is very good racing. As you said, the Canadian Grand Prix has hardly been better than this ever.
Again, Martin Donnelly, the yellow Lamborghini, followed by Prost, Piquet, and the 2nd Ferrari of Mansell. Again, Donnelly is 8th. He's a lap down. Prost is 2nd, trying to pass him, and Prost is just under 30 seconds behind the leader, Ayrton Senna.
The big problem here will not be to get Prost past, but it may be for Nigel Mansell to take advantage of Piquet. Prost should get past coming up here, but the power that the Lamborghini is producing is not allowing him to do that. 1 car will only get through, so this could widen the gap between the 3 cars, as we've seen earlier, can so easily occur. Alain Prost looking for a place. And here we see a wonderful shot, high above this Ile Notre Dame. And look at this congestion here. I think he's moved over, yes. Donnelly moved over, and the 3 cars have gone through. A very gentlemanly move.
A very gentlemanly move indeed by young Martin Donnelly. He is 26 years of age, made his Formula One debut last year in France. Here is Prost, car number 1, car number 20, Piquet. Car number 2 is Nigel Mansell. Oh, Piquet very, very close as he came into the start-finish stretch. Prost is second. There's Piquet third, trying to move into second, and there is Mansell fourth. They are all some 30 seconds behind our leader, Ayrton Senna.
I must say I'm very pleased to see Nelson Piquet having this amount of energy and enthusiasm, because he really had gone flat a couple of years back, and there are many people who said that he could never come back or be rejuvenated to this type of level of competition. Everybody thought that he was only in it for the money. He flies his own private jet, a Lear. He flies his own helicopter, a Hughes 500. He has his own yacht where the helicopter sits high above, and he lives a life quite extraordinary in the full glamorous jet set fashion that people see racing drivers live. But I must say he's probably the only one that lives in such a fashion. But nevertheless, people thought that he couldn't come back from what was beginning to look like a very depressed career. But now the man has got everything lit up and is ready to go. I must say he's performing very well.
Nelson Piquet, a three-time world champion, all over the defending world champion Alain Prost as they come down the south side of Ile Notre Dame. There's Ricardo Patrese.
He's going to do it. He's going to pass Prost, let me tell you. Unless something odd happens, Patrese, he's going to pass. Piquet's going to get past Prost. He's all over him. But again, you've got to look at Prost. Look how conservatively he drives. He hasn't got the car out of shape. Now he's got to come up in a slower car. This may help Prost here, because he's going to come up behind Ricardo Patrese. Patrese's not well known for moving over and letting people through, incidentally. Let's just see what he does here. Alain Prost, look at that. He's all over him, Nelson, and Nelson went inside him there. Just giving a little glimpse, putting him under more pressure, and look, and there's... well, Prost has got through past him, and Nigel Mansell's going with Piquet. You see how it opens up. Brian, just with lapping another car, has given Alain Prost a little breather.
An unbelievable battle. Prost is second, Piquet is third, and Mansell is fourth into the hairpin. And now again, those great camera shots. They really show you the speed that these great machines attain here in Montreal.
A missed gear change could cost everything here. And keep in mind that the Ferraris have an electric gear change. The driver doesn't need to take his hands off the steering wheel. It's just a button. Whereas Nelson Piquet has to manually shift gears. It's not unusual for a racing driver to miss gears. And when you miss a gear, under those circumstances, he would certainly immediately be passed by Nigel Mansell. So his concentration at the present time, as Patrese comes into the pits. Patrese has been suffering from a reduced performance now for quite a few laps. There is a problem, no doubt about it. He's changing tyres.
He is currently running in the number 7 position. They've now gone over 13 seconds, 14-15, and Patrese is through for the day, I would say, as far as being a factor in this race. Now more than 20 seconds in the pit for the veteran Italian. He is the all-time leader in races competed in, 196. Stay with us. Our live coverage from Montreal will continue. There's your leader, Ayrton Senna, followed by Prost, Piquet, and Mansell.
Clean his room. I must have told him 1,000,000 times, you're going nowhere till you clean up your room.
You ain't nothing like you used.
Back in school, we lived a whole week on macaroni and cheese. Then we ran out of cheese.
He was such a kind little boy, always bringing home stray animals.
Molson Special Dry, the evolution of beer.
Honda presents a cure for cabin fever on those long excursions with the family. A wonderfully spacious redesigned Accord sedan. Why, there's so much more comfortable room, you may never hear. How much farther to go, Dad? Again.
37 out of 70 scheduled laps. Ayrton Senna with a 30-second lead over Alain Prost. But the story is the battle for second place. There is Prost, car number 1. Piquet, car number 20. And car number 2 is the second Ferrari of Nigel Mansell. Prost is second. Piquet is third. And Mansell is fourth. And Piquet about to make that move. Jackie, he comes so very, very close on the east end of the island of that hairpin. Now, down through those very tight turns, a very fast section of the course. They'll then have that little chicane at the end of the straightaway into the start-finish area. Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet, and Nigel Mansell.
Piquet's car unquestionably seems more stable under braking, and that's where he seems to have his best advantage. But at any time now, Nigel could start ducking inside Nelson Piquet. I don't think it's any pushover as Patrese Williams continues round the track at a much reduced speed. He's left the pits. When we left for our last commercial, he was in there. But this battle is a wonderful battle. You're looking at three enormously talented drivers, all highly intelligent, not the type of drivers that create accidents trying to overtake. It's now strategy and mind management as to when they go and make their move. Each driver has a little advantage over the other at a particular set of corners round the racetrack. Piquet now seems to lose a little bit of acceleration, but watch him gain under braking as they come down here. And Nigel Mansell is just looking for the mildest glitch to try and overtake. Look how close Piquet gets there, almost having his rear wing scrub against the back of the tire. He's going to have to watch that, because that could be his downfall, because if he gets too close, the front wing of his Benetton could come in contact with the rear wheels of Alain Prost. If that occurs, he's in trouble. But look again how close he gets in this very fast section. Piquet is really driving an inspired race. And look how Mansell is so tight now. I think Mansell's going to make a move on Piquet. That's the most likely one.
Our producer, Lawrence Kimber, just said into my ear as we look at Prost, Piquet, and Mansell. There's a few Grand Prix won between these three. In fact, Prost has won 40, Piquet's won 20, Mansell's won 15, 75 Grand Prix victories between these three. You see on your screen now just a tremendous battle for second place. There's Nelson Piquet running third, three-time world champion. There's Nigel Mansell. He won here for Frank Williams in 1986. A tremendous battle. And again, if you're just joining us this afternoon, Alain Prost is second, more than 30 seconds behind our leader, Ayrton Senna. But it has been a very, very exciting race. It rained this morning. They started on wet tires, went to the dry tires. As a result, those dry tires with a smooth surface caused a couple of accidents. Nannini, Alesi, and Larini, and Martini.
Piquet's passed. Piquet made a pass. He's got past Ferrari. Nelson Piquet under braking, just as I said it would happen. Got under braking going into the hairpin. Prost's attention was, I think, diverted slightly by the cars he was about to lap, and suddenly Nelson Piquet struck like a viper, and through he is. Now, will Nigel Mansell try to do the same to his own teammate? An amazingly intelligent move there by Nelson Piquet. Very mature. He knew when to do it. Here's the situation. My goodness, what an excellent move that was.
And Alain Prost is now running in the number 3 position. There's Piquet, there's Prost, and there's Mansell, second, third, and fourth, respectively. Piquet right there, car number 20, three-time world champion. Alain Prost, defending world champion, and Derek Warwick there. Now coming up on the lone Leighton House in this race, that is Ivan Capelli, and Capelli is running in the number 10 position.
Well, this traffic is going to help a little bit Piquet. Watch him get through this traffic. Prost hasn't been able to pass the Monteverde Onyx car there, and look how Piquet is going to take an advantage. Now he's going to come up behind Capelli. The two Ferraris have dropped back there. This is going to help him. Watch the Ferrari. And Nigel's passed. Nigel's come through and passed his own teammate Alain Prost. Nigel Mansell's now in third position. So we have Ayrton Senna leading, Nelson Piquet second, Nigel Mansell third, and Alain Prost fourth. It happened in the same place, incidentally. Again, it must be that of braking, and I think that Prost is maybe having just a wee bit of trouble under braking for the hairpin. He's not getting quite as deep into the corner as the other two cars were getting in.
Nelson Piquet currently running second. There's Alain Prost, who is now running fourth. His teammate Nigel Mansell, just going out of your picture now, is running third. There's Piquet. Nelson Piquet, sorry, Jackie, in that big Ford-powered Benetton. We mentioned Nannini went out. He blamed an animal. I think you correctly called it, though. He slid with the dry tires on the wet surface as Mansell goes by Capelli. Capelli is down in the number 10 position, so Mansell, who is running third, has now lapped the number 10 car of Ivan Capelli, the Leighton House Judd.
Very interesting. Just on the last shot that we showed there, Nelson Piquet got his visor cleaned by himself. He wiped it off as he was going along that straight stretch there. He had the presence of mind to do that. I think he was getting quite a lot of oil on his visor from following the Ferrari. And there Alain Prost runs through, and he keeps himself in fourth position, being very cautious with traffic.
Let me ask you about the visors. Now, they peel some of them back as we look at Alain Prost running in the number 4 position. It's Ayrton Senna, Nelson Piquet, Nigel Mansell, and Alain Prost. Do they physically that often have to wipe off the visor?
They normally put what they call rip-offs on, where you put several thin strips of visor on top of the proper one. And as oil or dirt collects, you rip off the extra visors that you've taped on. In wet conditions, however, a lot of the drivers don't put extra visors on because the condensation, the wetness and the moisture gets between the clear see-through plastic and causes a lot of vision troubles and sometimes condensation. So many times the drivers will not have rip-offs when it's wet weather. And this, I think, is what was occurring with Piquet. And here we're on the onboard camera again. Again, we're in with Modena in the Brabham as he goes past the start-finishing line, and we lose a little bit of our picture there. But there's your second place man, Nelson Piquet. And here I think you see the pass. He gets under braking. He just gets deeper under braking than Alain. Alain Prost has been now passed twice this season convincingly under braking. One by Jean Alesi in Monte Carlo when Alain Prost was passed on the very first lap and was then hit from the rear by Gerhard Berger. But he just left the door open a wee bit too late in Monte Carlo, and he did the same here. So really he was asking for it, if you ask me, and it was almost predictable, as I had suggested earlier. Nigel Mansell, incidentally, took Prost on the next lap at the same corner.
For the uninitiated, as we now pass 50 laps, 50 out of 70, we're now in lap 53. For the uninitiated, watch their heads at the end of the race. They'll begin to shake if they're tired. Here's the pass.
This is Mansell passing his own teammate, and actually Nigel could easily have run up against that car. I'm not sure whether that car is being driven with Wojtek or whether it's JJ Leto. But Nigel almost clipped the rear end of the slow-moving car that Alain was still making his mind up whether to pass or not.
I mentioned their helmets. The head will move from side to side if they're tired. These drivers, as we look at Nigel Mansell, those helmets, Jackie, these drivers have to have very strong necks. There's a lot of equipment in those helmets.
A lot of weight, because you've got radios in there, and the drivers speak to their pits during the race if they need to say anything. The general condition of racing drivers is much, much better than most people would consider. Because you think, well, racing drivers, they sit down to drive after all, as we go back to see our leader, who we've almost forgotten about. He's so far in front, he's 34 seconds in front at the present time. But the general condition, particularly the upper body with the isometrics, because the weight of the helmet with the G-forces experienced in some of the long corners, one of the Italia cars, Scuderia Italia, that could be De Cesaris, but it looks like the car's just come to a stop. It doesn't look like it's had an accident. The drivers work with their neck muscles a lot, and a lot of conditioning at the beginning of a season when they have been perhaps laid off for a few weeks. It's a tough business. I know if I get into a modern Grand Prix car, within 20 laps, the next morning I can hardly move my neck. Racing drivers are much fitter than people imagine.
Jackie, I'm often asked to compare kart racing and Formula One. The kart cars may go faster, but I think people don't understand the G-forces in Formula One as we look at our leader, Senna. The Formula One cars are so much faster through the corners, they literally whip that head from side to side.
Yes, the kart Indy cars at Indianapolis, of course, are in excess of 130 miles an hour on the straight. A Formula One car does not do 130 miles an hour on the straight. It may only go to 230 rather. It may only go to around I say 196 to close to 200 miles an hour. But where they do gain is that the modern Grand Prix car, such as the one you're looking at now, and that is Gerhard Berger, who incidentally is fighting his way through the field, is still in 5th position. These cars are much more advanced technically than the Indy kart cars. There's a lot more money involved in Grand Prix racing than there is in the kart Indy series also. And money talks. The technology, the engineering, the composite carbon fibers, the carbon fiber disc brakes, the enormous sums that are put into development both on the engine side and the chassis side in Formula One, frankly, increases all those cornering abilities. And when you do that, of course, the driver has to sustain between 2 and 3 Gs every lap several times.
And you can see Berger's head there starting to go side to side in the straight, a sign that he is indeed tiring. Berger running in the number 5 position. Yes, Jackie?
I don't think you can honestly say he'll be tired there. You'll see Senna doing the same. The suspension is so hard, Brian, that it's impossible. And you can see there's a 32-second gap between Piquet and Senna, so I don't think Senna's worried at all by Piquet's pace. But it's not tiredness, it's just the fact that there's no suspension in those cars hardly. So you're going to be rocketed around inside. The spine is worn with the vertebrae rubbing against each other. I've got a spine that's about 20 years older than the rest of my body, the doctors told me, seriously.
Stay with us. There's our leader, Ayrton Senna. Lots more to come on a tremendously exciting Sunday afternoon in Montreal.
If you like a taste that's fresh and crisp, reach for the Silver Bullet. It's got that clean, clear taste that goes the distance.
The only way we could improve BF Goodrich TA tires was to add a piece of plastic. Introducing the High Performance Card. With National Road Hazard Protection and more, it comes in handy down the road. Available at participating BF Goodrich tire dealers.
This is a 70-lap race. Ayrton Senna now leading by 33 seconds over two-time winner Nelson Piquet. Nigel Mansell is running 3rd. Alain Prost is running 4th. The onboard camera of Stefano Modena, the Italian for Brabham, in the number 8 position as he pursues Martin Donnelly. If you're just joining us, hope you're enjoying this race. I'm Brian Williams, along with 3-time world champion Jackie Stewart. And England's Barry Gill in the pits. Down the north side of the island comes the Brabham of Modena. Again, he is running 8th, Senna the leader, followed by Piquet, Mansell, Prost, Berger, Warwick, Donnelly, and Modena. There is Modena with that onboard camera. Now, there's a great story here. Ken Furel Jr. and his wife Sandra are working with us here in the booth, Jackie. Ken, a pilot with British Air, a very important part of our broadcast team every year here in Montreal. He points out that although Gerhard Berger is running 5th, there's our leader, Ayrton Senna. Although Gerhard Berger is running 5th, he has that minute penalty. He is actually the fastest car on the track.
Yes, I think he's driving a very, very important race for himself. I think he may well be able to clinch 4th position, in fact, if he keeps on at this rate, because in our calculations, he's only a matter of 3 and a bit seconds behind Prost. So indeed, he is driving an inspired race, and of course, he has to be kicking himself for anticipating that start, because frankly, you can't do that. You know you're going to be penalized under those circumstances. So really, Berger, even with all his knowledge and experience, has allowed himself to be shot in his foot by his own gun, really.
That's Nelson Piquet, car 20, followed by Nigel Mansell, the number 2 Ferrari, who is third. Piquet is second, and defending world champion Alain Prost running in the number 4 position. If you are not with us at the beginning, Jackie was alluding to the penalty. The pole sitter is Ayrton Senna. Also on the front row was his teammate Gerhard Berger. As we look at Mansell running third, Berger actually jumped the green light by a fraction of a second and was thus penalized the 1 minute. There is Nigel Mansell. Mansell third, Prost is fourth, and Berger with a tremendous race this afternoon running in the number 5 position. A couple of accidents. Alessandro Nannini. There is the Benetton Ford of Piquet. Nannini in the other Benetton Ford was running very well. With the dry tires, he slid on the wet pavement and crashed, as did Jean Alesi and the Ligier of the Ligier, I should say, of Nicola Larini, the Italian. Right now, let's once again go down to the pits and Barry Gill. Barry?
Well, as you can see, Jackie's just been talking about fitness. One driver who's not as fit as he would like to be is John Alesi. And as you can see behind me, we have the French and the French-Canadian press waiting to find out what is the story. Well, I can tell you we won't be talking to John Alesi because he's lying in this motorhome with no clothes on at the moment, and it isn't that sort of show. But Stuart, seriously, how is Jean?
Jean is fine. He's having a doctor work on his back, massage his back. He's suffering a small amount of discomfort, but there really is no cause for concern whatsoever.
Did he say what happened exactly?
What he said to me, he was trying to pass Andrea de Cesaris just before the chicane, prior to the hairpin, and he got onto a wet line and lost all traction. And I understand that his car backed into Nannini's parked Benetton at the side of the track.
But he's going to be all right for the next race in Mexico.
I see no problems at all.
Well, we all wish him well. Thank you, Stuart Wingham of Tyrrell, for talking to us. Thank you. Back to you, Brian. I'm Jackie with the 20-year-old spine.
Well, that's me. But, you know, a lot of back injuries in racing. And, of course, when you hit something that hard, when there's no padding on the seats at all, you're held in, of course, with a 6-point fastening seat belt. Is a little bit like a parachute harness. But even with that, you get an awful knock, and of course, muscularly and ligament-wise, it can be very discomforting indeed. So Alesi will get some treatment for that, and I'm sure he's in very good hands. You're looking at the car now of Nigel Mansell, and there is the car of Nelson Piquet. Nelson Piquet must be making all the Ford engineers very happy in Detroit who are watching this race, because the engine has been gradually improving, and now they really have an engine than the Benetton chassis that clearly is capable of competing healthily against the might of the Honda engine, the McLaren, and of course the Ferrari, and as we've also seen the Renault engine Williams. So Nigel Mansell, however, is still leaning on him quite heavily as we look down at this beautiful scene here at the Ile Notre Dame, in still damp conditions on the racetrack with only 10 laps to go. Nigel Mansell still keeping the pressure on. Alain Prost has dropped back quite considerably as we find our leader, Ayrton Senna, and there's one of the Camel. It's Donnelly. Martin Donnelly is going very slowly around the racetrack. That'll be a disappointment for him because he was in 7th position. His teammate, Derek Warwick, has still got a World Championship point in 6th place. Gerhard Berger is in 5th place, but with no hope at the moment of catching Alain Prost, it would appear. And there the flame is burning brightly out of one exhaust pipe, which would suggest there's oil inside the engine. It would be that a valve or an oil seal has gone, causing that kind of oil flame.
Ayrton Senna, who won this year in Phoenix and won 2 weeks ago with a masterful drive through the streets of Monte Carlo, has 22 career Formula One victories, is on his way here today to number 23. His lead now 28 seconds over Nelson Piquet, a 2-time winner of this event in the 1980s, both times for Brabham. Nelson Nigel Mansell is running third, and Alain Prost, the other Ferrari, running in the number 4 position. Ayrton Senna started from the pole here today, his 46th pole, and that is the all-time Formula One record. As into the pits comes young Martin Donnelly, the 26-year-old from Attenborough, England. His best ever finish was 8th this year at San Marino. His teammate, Derek Warwick, the veteran, is currently running in the number 6 position. He would be the last driver to pick up points, but he is more than a lap behind the leader, Ayrton Senna, and Donnelly has had enough for this day in Montreal. This is the onboard camera, the Brabham of Stefano Modena, the Italian, as he is all over the car in front of him. Now, that is not Warwick. Warwick is ahead of him in the standings, but
No,
Modena...
Nakajima.
That's Nakajima in the second Ken Tyrrell car, a Lazy, in a rather spectacular accident in the other Tyrrell, sliding off on the north side of the island and crashing into the already abandoned car of Alessandro Nannini. Nannini is out of the race as we look at Nakajima. Nannini's teammate, though, Nelson Piquet, is currently standing in the number 2 position, 27 seconds now behind our leader, Ayrton Senna. Let me run down the top 10. Senna, Piquet, Mansell, Prost, Berger is running 5th. An incredible drive today by Gerhard Berger. In spite of the fact he was penalized 1 minute, he is followed by Warwick, Modena, that's his car with a camera you're looking at right now, Alex Caffey, Capelli, and the Frenchman Bernard for Lola Lamborghini. Only one Brabham in this race. The other Brabham did not qualify. That is the Brabham of David Brabham. He is the son of the legendary Blackjack Brabham. You remember it well in 1967, Jackie. Blackjack won the inaugural Canadian Grand Prix at Mosport Park in Ontario.
Yes, I participated in that event, not successfully, but Sir Jack Brabham, as he now is, has 3 sons in motor racing. The car still bears his name. He's got Jeff Brabham, who's racing in the IndyCar series, as well as the IMSA Camel Trophy here in America. He also has another son called Gary Brabham that's doing the Formula 3000 Championship. And then, of course, David Brabham, who's probably the most talented of them all, sadly didn't qualify here.
He's moving along the north side of the island. Downtown Montreal is about where the word Grand Prix is. They now come down through a right, then down into the right-hand hairpin, and back down along the south side of the island.
It's this corner where the accident occurred with Alesi and with Nannini, as they accelerate hard along here to where the passing maneuver was carried out by Piquet and by Mansell, and getting through past the Ferrari of Prost. This slow hairspin right down. You can hear the gears being taken. Now listen to the gears going up.
And that's one of the Ferraris as we now come back. There's Nigel Mansell running in the number 3 position behind Senna and Piquet. Prost is running 4th. Big crowd here this weekend. Not only today, but I think the biggest crowd I've seen for qualifying in the 8 or 9 years I've been here was on Friday, Jackie, as they come down through the start-finish area. There is Piquet 2nd, followed by Mansell 3rd. That's Piquet right there in your screen now. The Benetton Ford, Mansell spinning a bit.
Well, Mansell there lost a little bit of time. He came up behind Alex Caffey there, and I think that has dropped Nigel out of contention with regards to getting a hold of Nelson Piquet, because we've only got 6 laps to go. And that little effort of Nigel right there, this is Alex Caffey, young Italian, driving for the Footwork Arrows. They've just been bought over by a Japanese company, Arrows, and Footwork is their name.
There is Griard in the Osella pursuing Modena, and here is the 2nd place car, the Benetton Ford of 2-time Canadian Grand Prix champion and 3-time world champion Nelson Piquet.
And he has 2 cars between him and Nigel Mansell now as a little protector. So really no, Nigel nearly got it all wrong there. He nearly ran into the back of Alex Caffey's car. Nigel may be having a little bit of brake trouble here, because that's the 2nd time he's made a little mistake. He almost made the 2nd mistake, the earlier one at the other end of the racetrack. But Alain Prost is now coming in within reach of him, which he simply wasn't before. Prost's car was in the picture there, as we just saw it. Now Nigel's putting his hand up and shaking his fist at the car in front of him. He's shaking his fist at Alex Caffey. I don't really know what all of that was about. I don't think he needed to do that, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, Mansell has now gone by Caffey. That's Griard pursuing Piquet. Griard's not a factor. There's Mansell. He is now running third in the race. There's Mansell. Behind him
is Alex Caffey, and there is Alain Prost, who had dropped considerably further back. Nigel had troubles there, but I don't think that the Alex Caffey fist-shaking episode was actually relevant, because Caffey was only now in a position, or only at that time in a position, to hold him up.
Nigel Mansell pursuing Olivier Griard. That is car 14. Griard is standing in the number 13 position. Look at this. Prost is now coming up. There he is, car number 1. He is all over Nigel Mansell. What, Jackie? 5 laps to go. 5 laps to go. Mansell is second. Then there's Griard. This Griard here, as Mansell goes by him. There's Prost, who's running third. Now Prost is making a move up on Nigel Mansell.
Let's watch for Nigel Mansell's braking. Not on this one, or not on the next one. But the corner after that, which is past the start-finishing line, I think Nigel may be showing a little lack of brake. So let's see what Alain Prost can do here. Keep in mind, although they are teammates, they are very competitive. It's here under braking that Nigel nearly went wide the last time. World Championship points are very valuable, and Prost is no illusion at all that he wants to pick up as many points as he can, because believe me, the wee frog wants to win the World Championship again before he retires.
Well, it's 9 points for a win, 6 points for finishing second, and 4 for third, 3 for fourth, 2 for fifth, and 1 for sixth.
And he's less than half a second behind Nigel Mansell now, although Mansell seems to have taken a slight advantage of him in that last lap. Nelson Piquet is still comfortably in second position with a little bit of cushion. You can see there's nobody really bothering him right now. The two Ferraris are really... Nigel Mansell's got his head together again and pulled out an advantage on Alain Prost. So I don't think Prost is going to get a chance to actually do him.
There's Nelson Piquet. There's Modena. Modena is standing 7th, and right behind him comes car number 20. The Benetton Ford 190 of world champion Nelson Piquet in the 1980s, a 3-time world champion. He is second, some 28 seconds behind our leader, Ayrton Senna. Senna with that big lead on his way with 4 laps to go to his third win in 5 races this year. But in spite of the fact Senna's had the big lead, it has been a tremendously exciting race here today. And one of the great stories is Gerhard Berger. Berger will pick up 2 points if he finishes 5th, where he is right now. Berger started on the front row along with Ayrton Senna, but jumped the green light by just a fraction of a second, but was penalized 1 minute. If you take away that penalty, Berger would be leading this race, but he is not. His teammate Senna is leading. And there's your second place car. That's Nelson Piquet. There's Piquet, and there come the 2 Ferraris. First Nigel Mansell and then Alain Prost.
Actually, Piquet's been held up a little bit now with Modena. He'll be wanting to get past. This is the place for him to pass. There he comes. Through he comes. And that was Modena pointing where to pass, incidentally.
And there goes Piquet.
Modena putting his hand out to show him where to pass, but just in that lap, actually, Nigel Mansell did close up on Nelson Piquet with only 3 laps to go. I don't think Mansell has a chance of catching him because he's still got to get past Modena if he's going to do that. And Modena's car's going very quickly. It's a very well-handling car, that very good car. The 2 Ferraris really are too far apart to see any real change in their order. The Canadian people have enjoyed a first-class Grand Prix here. It's been very good motor racing. I don't think they could have asked for anything more. It really was treacherous conditions at the beginning of this race and has been very well dealt with by the drivers. I think we've been extremely fortunate with regards to the injuries, because we could easily have had a serious injury with that collision between the car of Nannini, although his car was stopped at the time, and the car of Alessi, because that was a very heavy impact. And there Modena allows Nigel Mansell to go through. We can see that again in our camera. And you will see Alain Prost trying to get through in a little while also.
Prost is running fourth. Mansell is third. Piquet is second. And there's the pass. Prost goes by Modena. Alain Prost still running in the number 4 position. There he is, car number 1, defending world champion.
2 laps to go. Yes, it's still very close at the end of this Grand Prix. A Grand Prix nowadays is really a 100-meter sprint, if you think of it as track and field. It's no longer the marathon that it was when this Grand Prix racing started way back in history when the horseless carriage was introduced. Today, to do a 200-mile Grand Prix is really a sprint.
And there's our leader, Ayrton Senna, car number 27, on his way to his 23rd career victory. It will be the 3rd win in 5 races for Ayrton Senna so far in 1990. He held the pole position.
It's interesting to note, however, that he's now only 24 seconds ahead. He's going very slowly indeed. This has been a fact with the Honda engine this year. There's been a lot of speculation as to whether the engine loses performance as it gets low on fuel and towards the end of a race. And it's interesting that he's lost. Now he's down to less than 20 seconds. 20 seconds with only really 1.5 laps to go. But he could either, of course, be taking it very, very gently indeed. It's only now 1 lap because he's just crossed the start-finishing line, so Ayrton Senna is on his last lap.
Jackie, what kind of communication for the uninitiated watching here today would he have with the pits? How does he know just how far ahead he is?
He has a radio, a two-way radio system that the pits are talking to him and he's talking to them, but he's also getting the old-fashioned signaling board which is put out, because sometimes with radio interference and with all the noise in a cockpit of a car, if reception is not perfect, you can often get the driver not getting quite as clear a message as he would like to have. So the good old-fashioned signaling board still comes into play. So we're in the very last lap of Ayrton Senna's race, and he has dominated this race, Brian. There's no other way around it. He's certainly driving as well as he ever has driven.
A brilliant drive indeed for the Brazilian Ayrton Senna, without question the greatest driver in the world right now. They're preparing the checkered flag. Senna now down through the hairpin at the east end of the island. Will come through a series of turns, down into a straightaway, then a chicane into the start-finish area. On this, his final lap. There's the flag. They're ready to wave it as he goes by.
Well, we saw that flag, in fact, being earlier waved to Gerhard Berger because he's first on the track, but the victory indeed very much goes to his teammate, the clenched fist of Ayrton Senna. You will surely see the Brazilian flag being waved by the many supporters that he has here in Canada as he has them come out the walls for him all the way around the world. Gerhard Berger going round there has driven a masterful race. In fact, a very, very strong race, but you know, you can't jump the start, Brian.
Well, it's official as we look at Berger. You saw Senna take the checkered flag. Ayrton Senna winning the 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. Nelson Piquet second, followed by Nigel Mansell. Alain Prost, the clenched victory fist of Ayrton Senna, who wins. Boy, it was only by 15 seconds, but he slowed considerably at the end, Jackie. He wins by 15.8 seconds over Nelson Piquet. Nigel Mansell third, Alain Prost fourth, Gerhard Berger finishing fifth. Derek Warwick, the last driver in the points in the number 6 position. Let me run down the rest of the top 10. Modena finished 7th for Brabham, followed by Caffey, Bernard, and Capelli. Those are the drivers that pick up points. 9, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. The points breakdown for the top 6 drivers. There is Gerhard Berger, who finishes in the points, picking up 2 points for finishing 5th. That in spite of the fact he was penalized a minute for jumping the start gun earlier in the race. The pole sitter and the 1990 Canadian Grand Prix champion here in Montreal Brazil's Ayrton Senna, Grand Prix Molson. Sports Weekend's live coverage of the 1990 Canadian Grand Prix will continue from Ile Notre Dame right after this.
In Canada, every summer, an unusual cultural event takes place. It is called the Long Weekend. It features strange rituals and the clean, cold taste of a genuine Canadian beer. Molson Canadian. What beer's all about.
This is a research laboratory. It tries and fails to make Castrol motor oil break down. It's the place where Castrol is torture tested to meet the requirements of those who punish motor oil the most. You. The everyday Canadian driver.
While all engineers earn their degrees in school, ours are also graduates of a higher institution. Formula One Racing. Because those who learn to do it right in the first place have a tendency to finish there. The all-new 1990 Acura Integra.
Put yourself in the Formula One picture with the world champion and all the contenders who contest the Grand Prix circuit. Meet the front runners and the teams behind the scenes who put it all together to produce results for the driving elite. From green light to fiery conclusion, follow the Autosport Pace Center. Sports Weekend. Our next race, June 24th, the Mexican Grand Prix.
And on a Sunday afternoon, there is your 1990 Molson Canadian Grand Prix champion, the brilliant Brazilian Ayrton Senna. Nelson Piquet, another Brazilian, finishing second. Nigel Mansell in Ferrari was third. Jackie Stewart, they've now moved Gerhard Berger in the other McLaren up to the number 4 position. These are the driver's standings after 5 races. Senna with 3 victories, Phoenix, Montreal, and Monaco, followed by Gerhard Berger, who they now say finished 4th here today. Alain Prost was 5th here today. Jean Alesi involved in a spectacular accident, and I'll tell you, very, very fortunate not to be seriously injured as his car crashed into the already parked car of one Alessandro Nannini. Jackie Stewart, we should explain for the viewers today just what happened with the bit of confusion for the fans here with the checkered flag. Again, the checkered flag first went out for Berger as he was actually the first across the finish line, but he was penalized 1 minute for jumping the gun, so he did not win the race, obviously.
Yes, but he was the first driver, in fact, to complete the 70 laps. And when you complete the 70 laps, whoever that may be, the checkered flag goes out for you. May be that you have been penalized, and he was penalized absolutely honestly for jumping the flag. You can't anticipate the flag. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You've got to wait until the green light goes on. He did not wait for that and therefore was legitimately penalized by 60 seconds. However, he drove a very aggressive race, Brian, and by doing so kept on the road as hard as he could. The other drivers slackened off perhaps a little bit because they saw they weren't gaining very much in Ayrton Senna. In the meantime, Berger was catching up ground of that lost 60-second penalty factor and was indeed able to pass Alain Prost probably in the last 2 laps of the race on time. So therefore, that's where Alain Prost was not aware probably of the situation of Berger catching him. And I think Alain Prost will be rather upset by the fact that maybe his team wasn't advising him of that on the headset or on the board.
My friend, we've covered a lot of races here in Montreal. Now, Senna won today by 15 seconds, but was leading by nearly 30 seconds with a couple of laps to go. In spite of the one-sided victory, to me, this is one of the most exciting races I have ever seen at this track.
Yeah, it's a very, very good motor race in every way. I was certainly enjoying every minute of it. And there you have on the podium, you see the Brazilian flag. As I told you, you would see them because they do come out of the woods. I think, again, just showing that Senna is is the fastest driver in the world. He's very unemotionless. I'm interested to see that he's wearing a watch. That's something you should never wear when driving a racing car.
Why?
Because if you're involved in an accident and the watch gets caught in the accident, it can literally deglove you by taking all the skin off of your hand, which never comes back properly.
The Brazilian national anthem.
National anthem. The British national anthem is played because it was an entry from Britain. That was the McLaren team who reside below that Union Jack in good old Grand Britannia, and that's why they play the British national anthem. You've got two Brazilians up on the podium there, however, along with Nigel Mansell, and there the Martin Chandon gets sprayed around as it always does.
To our winner, the Mayor of Montreal, Jean Doré. C'est Monsieur Jean Doré qui donne la trophée au gagnant, notre Senna.
And there's the trophy for Senna. The other trophy being held up there, by the way, is by Ron Dennis on the right, that Nigel Mansell is now congratulating. Ron Dennis, the president of McLaren International, and not to be forgotten, Nelson Piquet. What a wonderful day it is for him, because really a lot of people were writing him off, and he's come back today, proven well and truly that he's a man who can do it like anybody else, even the much younger ones.
All right, stay with us. More to come. Sports Weekend's live coverage. There's the flag for Mansell of Grand Prix Molson, the 1990 Canadian Grand Prix. Will continue right after this.
Who can you lean on when you need to? Who's gonna hold you up?
I've learned a lot of things about driving from my dad, but the one thing he didn't have to teach me, never drink and drive. It's just common sense, isn't it?
I'm the one that's gonna take you home.
If you don't like the looks of your car, shoot it. With Son of a Gun Protected from STP. If your dash looks dull, shoot it. Your seats are shot, shoot them. Your tires look flat, heck, shoot them too. Don't leave your roof a wreck. Give it some luster. Give your car high caliber protection with Son of a Gun from STP. Son of a gun, what a difference.
There's a newfangled daddy coming down the street, a modern mama moving to the beat. In a high-tech world, you need an oasis, a place where you can get back to basics. Food, folks, and fun. Food, folks, and fun. McDonald's. You're the one, McDonald's. Food, folks, and fun.
Grand Prix on Sports Weekend. Brought to you by Molson Canadian. What beer's all about. By Acura, makers of precision-crafted performance automobiles. And by Castrol Canada, makers of Castrol XLR.
We look down on Ile Notre Dame in Montreal on a Sunday afternoon. It has been a dry Sunday afternoon. I'm Brian Williams, along with the three-time world champion, two-time Canadian Grand Prix champion Jackie Stewart. A strange day. I mean, if you're watching in Montreal, they probably thought, Williams, you're nuts, because when I came on, it wasn't raining here. It looked to be pouring in downtown Montreal, then rained about 20 minutes prior to the start of the race, but then dried up.
I think great credit must go to the drivers in the field, because the conditions were indeed very difficult. There were dry patches on the racetrack, and then there was very slippery patches outside of the real groove that was involved, and any number of drivers could easily have gone off on those conditions. So I think under the circumstances, we had a very safe Grand Prix of Canada. We saw a couple of incidents that were easily read in advance. It was a typical type of accident where getting onto that slippery surface when trying to overtake was simply not on. But a very good Grand Prix. I was very pleased with it. I'm very pleased for Nelson Piquet. Obviously congratulate Ayrton Senna, and another masterly drive. And of course Berger's come right through the field with that penalty in a great way. Nigel Mansell should also be pleased to finish, because he's had a dreadful year of mechanical failure so far with the Ferrari. Both Ferraris finished the course. Must be the first time that's happened.
All right, my friend,
while.
it's always great to work with you. The three-time world champion Jackie Stewart, thank you. We look forward to seeing you back here next year. Also, special thanks to Barry Gill. Again, it's Ayrton Senna winning today, followed by Nelson Piquet, Nigel Mansell, Gerhard Berger, Alain Prost, and Derek Warwick. And now for Jackie Stewart and Barry Gill, I'm Brian Williams. Hope you enjoyed the show. Good afternoon, everyone, from Ile Notre Dame in Montreal. We'll see you next Saturday on Sports Weekend.
Anne-Marie's Greatest Hits Volume 2, tonight at 7:30 in
Italia 90.